Okay.
Okay, Karen, make me the host again. All right, Patrick, we're ready.
Okay. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for attending our pre-retirement seminar. And this is a love child of Tony and Karen's, and they have done a fabulous job over the years, and we're glad to continue it. While we welcome all, I'm Patrick Crabtree. I'm the president of over 3,000 retirees in the state of Georgia. Thank you for the honor. While we welcome all public school employees, this event is only for GAE members and GAE staff. Therefore, if you're not a GAE member or part of the GAE staff, please sign in by putting your name and personal email or cell phone and school system in the chat to who would I send it to you, Tom?
To me.
And Patrick, actually, the pre-retirement seminars are open to anybody, member or non-member.
Oh, okay. So I was just reading this. We appreciate your interest in GAE and will join the organization today by visiting joingae.org. Everyone, please note that you must receive prior permission from the GAE Executive Committee or GAE Executive Director before recording audio or video of this meeting. Social media posts concerning this meeting shall not contain information about specific content of the meeting, although sharing of general information about GAE and GAE events is encouraged. Please be courteous to everyone in attendance and request that permission before posting photographs containing their images. If you have any questions about social media posting of GAE events, please contact GAE Executive Committee or the GAE Executive Director. Again, I am so glad everyone is here today. Thank you, Tony and Karen.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm Tony Smith, Vice President of GAE Retired. Welcome, everyone. What we're going to do first on the agenda is to share some important information that is extremely timely. We're going to talk about the changes to the state health benefits plan, which is your health insurance. For those of you who are retired, or know someone who is retired, please let them know that this is a critical, active retiree choice option. And for those of you who are planning to retire, this is information you need to know to make decisions about your continuation of your state health medical insurance, which we strongly urge you to continue in retirement because no one can beat the plan options we're offered. And if you do leave state health benefits plan, you will never be able to return. What you need to know is between now and November 8th, this is the retiree options change period, the ROCP. It is this year an active enrollment for Medicare Advancement members. One of the things we used to be able to do is to just let it ride. And so we didn't have to do anything if we didn't want to change our options. This time, if you do not make an active choice, you will automatically be enrolled in the lowest tier Medicare Advantage plan, which is Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield. The options for retirees is United Healthcare, Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield, and for active members, Kaiser Permanente Regional HMO. The pharmacy vendor is the same and the wellness vendor is the same. You need to be aware that this year for retirees, the the option that used to be $0 premium, which was United Healthcare Standard, is now going to be $82.59 per month for 2025. And United Healthcare Premium will be $218.39 for 2025. That's for one individual. That is not yourself and your partner. Anthem Blue Cross Standard, which is the one you'll be automatically placed in if you do not make an active choice, is $20 per month, and premium is $187 per month, which is just for an individual. You see the historical breakdown at one point. United was $0 a month starting in 2021, but in 2025 it will be $82 a month. So it's very important that you understand that if you do not go to the website or call SHBP on or before November 8th, you will automatically be placed in Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield Standard, which is $20 a month. So you can go to the State Health Benefits website or call them to make your option changes. Are there any questions? And the time frame is the same for active members. You have until November 8th. Okay. If there are no questions about this, and like I said, it's very important that you share this information with those people you know.
Excuse me, I have a question.
Yes.
So my husband is a Ford retiree. We have Kaiser. Do we have to call them, make changes, or is it automatic?
I think what you should do is contact SHBP to make sure that active members can let it ride. If not, then you need to actively select Kaiser while you're on the phone with them.
Okay, but he doesn't have SHBP. He has his retirement through Ford Motor, so that doesn't affect him. This doesn't. I'm sorry.
This doesn't affect him, no.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Well, I'm going to turn it over to our good friend Aaron Warner from NEA Member Benefits. Aaron, I made you a co-host, so
Yes.
you are able to share your screen, and it's all yours.
Okay, well, thank you for that. So for those of you who are not familiar with NEA Member Benefits, my name is Aaron Warner. I'm an affiliate relations specialist that goes around and does a lot of these presentations just to make sure members are aware of the benefits that they have available to them. So we do know that the more people that have some kind of a benefit with NEA Member Benefits, the more they are likely to become a member and more likely to stay a member. It's one of the reasons that we know that the benefits we have are good benefits. And we know it's one of the things that members like and enjoy about their membership. So I'm not covering every benefit today of NEA Member Benefits. That would be an exhaustive list to do that. But I'm going to cover things. So I'm going to cover them. Some are no cost benefits. Some of them are like savings and discount programs, and then some of them are exclusive, meaning you can't get these unless you are an actual member somehow. And in fact, all these, what you want to do once you become a member, and I'm assuming most people on this call are a member, is you're going to want to sign into the website. So I am going to put in chat here the link. So you can go to neamb.com/start. And that will get you to the website. And when you get there, it's going to ask you for your name and your address, and your date of birth. Those are the main factors that it's going to use to match you up in the system. So you have a record in the system. You're just trying to match your information up in the system so that you can create a login for NEA member benefits. So this is how the system is going to identify you as a member to be able to take advantage of the things that I'm going to show you today. So I'll start off with the no cost benefits, and one that we know that people really enjoy, especially as you get into retirement, is travel. And our system is very similar to like an Expedia or an Orbitz or Travelocity, something like that. It's called an aggregator. And once you have signed in, you will have access to 500 travel dollars. And these travel dollars are, that's basically a buy down of the cost of whatever the vacation is that you're looking to book. So let's assume that you're trying to book a cruise. And let's say the cruise was $1,500. You can apply these travel dollars and buy that down. Now, it's not always going to buy it down the full amount of the 500, and you can never buy it down to zero. But what it'll do is it'll take out the fluff pricing and buy it down to the wholesale cost of whatever it is you're trying to book. So it could be a rental car, could be cruises, hotels, resorts, tours. When you book airfare and complete airfare, you actually do get $100 that goes into your bank that you can use. But throughout the year, you'll also get some random dollars put into your account that you can use towards travel. So one example I'll use is my wife and I were looking at some cruises, and we called a few different places, and the last one we called was NEA Travel, and they took the least expensive cruise that we found, and they applied, at the time we had 800 travel dollars. They applied 800 travel dollars to that, and that was the price that they offered. That's how that one worked. So very good use of your membership there, and I think that you'll find that that's one of your better benefits through your membership. So the next one, we get you have free magazine service, and every year you get access to 2 free magazines. So the only way that you have access to that is through this link that I'm sharing. I'm going to put it in chat here. So let's see, neamb.com/GA for Georgia, get 2. And that will give you access to be able to order 2 free magazines. There are plenty of others that are there for subscription, and you get it's like 80% off, 85% off of the face value of whatever those subscriptions are. So if you do like magazines, that's a good place to go to get your reading material. So moving on to savings and discount programs, we do have the NEA customized cash rewards card. So when you sign up for this, you get a $250 Amazon gift card. You get 3% back in an area of your choice. So that could be grocery stores, wholesale clubs, gas. There's like 6 different categories. You get 1% on all of the purchases, and then you get 2 and 3% back on the first $2,500 of your combined groceries, wholesale club. It's a good card. The other thing that's nice about it is you have free access into certain museums. It's called Museums on Us. So when you get the card, There's free access to many museums throughout the country. So when you use those 500 travel dollars to go travel somewhere, you have access to be able to use this card to get into some of those museums. So another one that is coming up now that we've passed Halloween, the next big holiday is Thanksgiving, and that brings up Black Friday. And so with Black Friday, everybody's looking for their shopping discounts, and the NEA Discount Marketplace is a way for you to be able to get cash back. So imagine whatever retailers that you would be shopping at. I mean, Best Buy, Macy's, Apple, you pick it. As long as you come to the NEA Discount Marketplace first and either put your credit card number in that you're going to use to go shop at that retailer, or you just go to the site first and access the retailer through the discount marketplace, you will get cash back by going through the site. You get a $10 welcome bonus after you spend your first $25 at any store. And the NEA Discount Marketplace is just a way to get cash back for the shopping that you do, regardless of wherever it is that you go. So you'll have the access to be able to go figure out which retailers that you like, and different retailers have different amounts that they give you back. So one of our big benefits, shopping and travel are really two of the biggest benefits that we have. So Discount Marketplace. The next one is discount tickets. Again, this one kind of fits in with travel a little bit as well. So whether you're looking to go to a theme park or a movie, a concert, Broadway shows, sporting event, I've seen even rodeos listed in here before. So this is a way to just get discounts on tickets that you purchase for different events. So again, I'll show you the QR code for that. But another discount program and a way to save money by using your membership. And moving on to exclusive rates. So things that you have access to that are exclusive to membership that you can't get outside, and that is our life insurance. So there are a number of different life insurance products that we have, and they're member only. So the NEA has a trust set up to help fund these. So what that does is it makes these life insurance policies less expensive than you would find elsewhere. And it also allows that more people are going to be accepted into the life insurance programs than you would be able to get in the general marketplace. So life insurance, if you're working with a financial professional and you're looking at life insurance, this is the first stop that you would want to look at for life insurance. So with that, that's kind of the short and sweet version. And I'm going to give you one more. So you thought you were to the end, you're not. You have one more thing. And that is that we have a fairly new partner in Travelers with the NEA Auto and Home Insurance Program. And this is a way to save money on your auto and home insurance. And this is been a very good program for us so far. And the savings that we've found, so we used to have California Casualty, and now we work with Travelers, and we found that Travelers is saving a lot more money for a lot more folks in many of our states. So encourage you to check this out and get a quote for your insurance and see if that one's gonna save you more than where you're at. And if you being a member, you're going to get a 5% discount on your insurance going through Travelers versus if you were not a member. So members are getting a discount here. So, okay. So with that, I'll open it up for questions. See if anybody has any questions on anything before I turn it back over to Tony. I see Patrick has a question. Yes, sir.
I do. I was part of California Casualty and they canceled in my state because hurricanes. Is Travelers open to all the 50 states?
They're not open to all 50, but they're open to a larger majority than California Casualty. California Casualty actually backed out of a lot of states. It's not just Georgia. They ended up going,
Alabama, Florida. I'm in Alabama, so it would kill me.
yeah. There's a lot of states that they pulled out. So they've really gone back to where their roots were, which was California for the most part. There's a small handful of other states they still operate in. But yeah, they backed out of a lot of states. But Travelers is one that's been around for a long time. They're a well-known name, and we've found them to be a very good partner so far. Okay.
Margaret
thank
has
you.
her hand up. Aaron?
Oh, yes. I think she's on mute.
You're on mute, Margaret.
Okay.
Yes.
My question is, do we have to have the credit card to get these benefits?
You do not.
Okay.
Do not. Nope, that's just the credit card is just a benefit in itself if you choose to get it.
Yeah, I would like to have the credit card anyway.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Aaron? And every time you saw me nod my head while he was talking, that meant that was a benefit that I've taken advantage of. It really is an excellent way to take advantage of your membership. All right. Thank you so
for having
much,
me.
Aaron.
All right.
We appreciate it.
Thank you. All right.
All right. We are now going to learn about legal matters that you need to be aware of as you plan for retirement. And this is going to be a recorded session segment from Robin Lacrimosa, who is a specialist in elder care. What I'm going to do is ask you for grace while I cue up the PowerPoint, the recording, and you will not be able to ask questions, but you will get a copy of this entire session recording.
Good morning. I'm Robin Lacrimosa. I'm Life Care Coordinator with Kimbrough Law, which is an elder law firm. We have offices in Athens and Gainesville. Thank you for inviting me to come and present to you guys today. So I wanted to talk about basically legal, financial, and care planning for after you've retired and are in need of some of these services. So what do we mean when we say estate planning? There's 3 documents that we refer to as estate planning documents. These are documents that we actually recommend everyone over the age of 18 have in place. The 3 things that everyone should have is a last will and testament, financial power of attorney, and an advance directive for healthcare. So we're going to explain a little bit more about what those are and why they're important. So the last will and testament, basically you want to say what your wishes are for any property, assets, jewelry, anything that you own, what you want to have happen with that after you pass away. For people who do not have a will when they pass away, Georgia law determines how your property gets divided. Most people assume that the spouse gets everything, and unfortunately, if you do not have a will in place, that is not true. You can see here that 1/3 of it goes to the spouse and the rest gets split among your children. So if you do not have a will, it gets a lot more complicated for your family. They have to petition the probate court. They have to advertise. to be able to close out your estate. I think we've all seen the advertisements in the newspaper of, so-and-so passed away and here are their belongings. They have to get a court order to be able to sell anything. Remember, every time you go to the court, there's usually a fee associated with that. And one of the things that I think a lot of people don't realize is it may have unintended consequences for the children or a spouse. So if you die without a will, you maybe are estranged from a biological child, but you have a stepchild or a niece or a nephew who you consider to be your child. If you do not have a will in place, they may unintentionally be left out of what you would have wanted them to receive. When you do have a will and testament in place, you know that everything goes to who you want it to go to. It's a simple probate process. It's a lot less challenging and expensive for your family to be able to close out your estate. You don't have to go to whoever the executor is has to go to the court and be named the executor, but you don't have to go through the court systems to be able to basically sell your assets and close out your estate. The financial power of attorney. This is also called the durable power of attorney. What happens if you do not have one? So this is where you are basically naming an agent or several agents to step in for you and manage your finances if you are unable to do so. If you were to become incompetent, if you had a catastrophic event and were no longer able to speak for yourself and manage your bills, in order for one of your family members to be able to step in, you have to get guardianship and conservatorship. That goes through the probate court. It's a long, lengthy, and somewhat expensive process. And then each year, whoever your guardian or conservator is has to report to the court along with their fees how they've been taking care of you, how they've been managing your money. If you have a financial power of attorney in place, and again, we recommend for anyone over the age of 18 to get one of these because nobody ever knows what's going to happen or when it's going to happen. They do not have to go through guardianship. They do not have to go through the probate court. They can basically step in immediately and start managing your finances, making financial decisions for you. Sometimes that includes paying for the assisted living that maybe you're going to be living at. They can move money, they can sell property, they can do whatever is in your best interest financially to take care of you. The advance directive for healthcare, this used to be called the living will. Many people are familiar with this. If you've ever been to the hospital, they usually will ask about that. This is where you're going to name an agent or several agents who are going to step in and make medical decisions for you. There are parts of this advance directive where you can say what it is that you want, whether you want to be on life support, whether you want to have a feeding tube. So you do have things that you can share your wishes, but basically you're naming someone to speak to the doctors, make medical decisions for you if you are unable to do so on your own. The next part that's important as you're getting ready to retire is asset protection. And what we mean by that is you've worked really hard for whatever assets you have. You probably have some certain people that you want to inherit some of your assets, maybe grandchildren you want to leave money to, maybe a charity. But if you were to have a catastrophic event and end up needing skilled nursing care, basically you needed to spend, some or the rest of your life in a nursing home. The way the state of Georgia works is in order to qualify for state benefits, you essentially have to spend down almost all of your money. So if you're a single person, in order to qualify for state benefits, you can only have $2,000. So asset protection is how can you plan ahead, protect the money that you have worked so hard for to keep from having to go completely to the nursing home. It gets a little complicated. People think, oh, I'll just transfer things into my children's names. Well, it's not that easy. Medicaid does a 5-year look back. So they've basically figured out that, we don't want people to be able to just give everything to their children and apply for state benefits the next day. Sometimes there's unexpected consequences. What if your child is maybe single and then marries someone who you don't trust? Or something happens with your child and they start using your money. So you want to be really careful how you protect your assets. The trust is one of the ways that people a lot of times will do that. They will put their assets into a trust, which then protects them from not only Medicaid, nursing home, but also from liabilities as well. So some of the reasons that you would need to talk to an attorney about asset protection is there's a lot of complications that go into it. And like I mentioned, it's not a good idea to just transfer everything to your children, because then really you have no control over how they spend their money. If they get divorced, if they get married, and I have had clients who have said, my daughter got married to somebody that I really don't like and I really don't trust. So those are all the things to think about. But these are things that you want to think about as you're moving toward retirement, about how you can protect the assets that you have. Medicare. This is one of the things a lot of people, I think, don't really understand is that, and I'm just going to mention it briefly, Medicare does not pay for long-term care. So when I talk about needing skilled nursing care, or even if you need to move into an assisted living or memory care, Medicare does not pay for that. Medicare is great. It pays for a lot of things, but it is basically designed to get you better and back at home, back into work is really how Medicare started. Unfortunately, we are seeing a lot of chronic illnesses, and Medicare does not cover for those, such as Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. So really think of Medicare as a rehab. It was designed to get you back out of the community, back to your home, back to work if you're still working. And so it is very limited. It does not pay for you to have an aide come into the home unless they are related to having physical therapy, and it's very short term. So that is why the asset protection can be really important, because Medicaid is the state benefit that does cover long-term care, does cover some of those things. So just don't assume that Medicare is going to take care of you if you have a chronic illness or a catastrophic event. The VA pension. So as you're getting ready to retire, a lot of folks, of course, become concerned about money, understandably so. So one of the things that we always want to make sure that everyone knows about is the VA pension program. And we call this the Aid in Attendance. This has been around since the 1960s, but we say it's one of the best kept secrets of the VA. And that's basically because they don't really publicize it, because they don't necessarily want to have to pay this out. So what is this pension? So for particular wartime veterans who served during specific war times, sorry, I thought the war times were on there, but they're not. But there are certain war times. These are the wars that are covered. The dates of service for the people who serve during these may make them eligible for this pension. So this pension is basically based on three things. One, the first and most important, is your dates of service. The reservists, unfortunately, do not qualify under this. You have to have been full-time military and served during these time frames. The second part is related to age and health status. You have to be at least 65 and retired, or actually, interestingly, the VA considers you disabled if you're over 65. So there's that. But there's some certain health requirements that go along with it. It's a pretty low bar. If you use a cane or a walker, if you have grab bars in your shower, any of those kind of things can help you qualify for this pension. If you were married to a veteran and they have passed away, there is a surviving spouse benefit as well. So you need some assistance with activities of daily living. And then the third part is financial. Now, if you just look at the VA website, it can be really complicated, and it makes it look like, oh, you're just automatically not going to qualify. And that's why we always encourage people to call us and talk to the attorney, because there are a lot of different unique situations. There's things that you can do to structure your finances that you will be eligible for this pension. So we always encourage folks to give us a call and we can talk with them about this. So what is the amounts? It's a lot. And that's part of why we always like to share this information about the pension, because this can be really life-changing for a lot of people. So if you're a married veteran, the benefit is $2,642. That's tax-free every month for the rest of your life. And then if you are a surviving spouse, it's $1,432 tax-free every month for the rest of your life. So it's a big deal. There's a lot that goes into it. If you ever have any questions, just give our office a call. We are happy to talk to anybody about this. We are very passionate about sharing this information with everyone, especially, of course, people who are a veteran or no veterans. So anyone can give us a call and we can kind of walk them through the details of this. We just want to make sure everyone knows about it. The last thing that our firm does that's a little bit different is where I come in. So I'm basically a geriatric social worker, and I do what we call life care planning. So life care planning is basically a holistic elder-centered approach to elder law. Mr. Kimbrough, who started our firm, was doing a lot of legal and financial work, but then people would be asking him care questions. How do I know when to move mom into a community? What do? I don't live in the state and my parent is getting older. And he recognized that there was a need for this. So he brought on the care coordinators, which I'm one of. And basically, we are kind of the intersection. So we work with the attorneys to address the legal, kind of the estate planning documents we were talking about, how to protect their assets, but then also what kind of care are they going to need? What is that going to look like? So for folks who maybe have a chronic illness or they have a memory impairment, I can work with the attorneys and kind of set up their care plan, working with the attorneys to look at their assets and make sure the legal documents are in place, and basically help them live the best life however it is that they choose to. Most folks choose to be at home for as long as possible, and that's one of the things that we really work with. So the benefits are you get the right care at the right place. A lot of times if we step in sooner rather than later, we can set up services that can help you remain in the home as long as possible, which is, like I said, what everyone wants. We provide benefits for the caregivers. I have a client who lives here in Athens and his daughter lives in Texas. He doesn't want to leave his home. So I am kind of the boots on the ground, and I go in and check on him and make sure that everything is actually going well. And the daughter calls me whenever she needs something. And basically life care planning puts you in the driver's seat. So I always suggest don't wait until things have gone sideways. Try to get ahead of all of these documents. These are documents you should have in place before you need them. The asset protection does require pre-planning, and then life care planning helps you kind of come up with a plan for where you are now, and if you have some chronic illnesses, how you can remain in your home as long as possible if that's what your wishes are. So that is kind of our what our firm does. We do cover the whole state of Georgia. We can offer Zoom meetings. I know that all of y'all are teachers that are scattered throughout the state, but please give us a call if there's anything that we can do to help you. We do a free consultation. If you mention that you saw me or heard about us on the presentation here, then you can have a free consultation and meet with the attorney, and we can discuss how we can help you. So thank you so much. Thanks for the work that you do.
I have a question.
Yes.
My name is Victoria, and my question is pertaining to the VA survivors benefit. My husband was in the military. He served in the Vietnam War, but he didn't get an honorable discharge. Do I still qualify for any of that benefits now that he's deceased?
Victoria, I can't answer that question. In fact, I can't answer any questions about what was presented here. What I would suggest is either you get in touch with Robin, and I will put her contact information in the email that I send along with the link to this presentation, or you contact the VA.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, so our next presenter is from the Social Security Administration, and I know you're interested in hearing what she has to say. She has been a good friend to GAE retired Anise Norman. Anise, I believe I made you a co-chair. Double check and make sure, yes, you can share your screen. All right, Anise, take it away.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Anise Norman, Public Affairs Specialist with the Social Security Administration. And what I want to do for you this morning is to give you a general overview of the basics that you need to know and understand with Social Security. And there will be someone coming up behind me to talk about the topic that is near and dear to your heart, the windfall elimination provision and government pension offset. So I won't be talking about that because I don't want to steal somebody else's thunder. But the general things that you need to understand about Social Security is that, number one, it was never designed to replace your pre-retirement income. It is only going to replace approximately 40%. So what does that mean for you? It means that if you know that 40% of your income is going to come from Social Security, think about your other sources, such as, do you have a pension? Do you have money in your savings? And the question that you want to ask yourself is, will this be enough to sustain me in retirement? Because most financial planners are going to tell you you're going to need somewhere between 70 to 80% of your pre-retirement income to live comfortably in retirement. So I'm hoping that by the end of this presentation, you'll have a better understanding or idea of how Social Security is going to work for you. So when you're thinking about retirement, please understand that this is a very personal decision, the right time for you to elect to take that cash benefit from Social Security. That may be different from your coworker or your brother or your sister. You have to look at your own financial situation or your own health to determine when do you want to take this benefit. The earliest that you can take a cash benefit from Social Security is at age 62. Keep in mind that if you do elect to take your benefit at age 62, this is a permanent reduction on the benefit. And then the only potential increases you're going to see are those COLA or cost of living increases. For next year, for 2025, the COLA is going to increase by 2.5%. So on average, a person would see roughly around an additional $50 into their Social Security benefit. And keep in mind, this is before any reduction for Medicare, because we don't know what that new premium will be yet. Unfortunately, the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, they have not announced what the new Part B premium will be yet. But so the earliest that you can take the Social Security benefit is at age 62, or you may want to wait until your full retirement age. That is going to be based upon your year of birth, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in the presentation. Or you may be that individual who wants to max out your benefit by waiting all the way up until age 70, and that's just the point where Congress said that we're going to have to stop the calculation. Another thing to consider with Social Security is that once you do elect to take your cash benefit from us, are you planning to go back to work? Because if you are under your full retirement age, there will be earnings limitations you need to be aware of. And again, I will mention those in this presentation. And of course, you have to think about whether or not you want to enroll in Medicare. Enrolling in Medicare, that is not mandatory. But the thing is, if you do not enroll in Medicare at the first opportunity that you can enroll, just be aware you could subject yourself to a 10% penalty for every 12 months that you wait or delay in enrolling. Also, I want to mention that, with your state health plan benefits, normally as you're selecting one of those plans as you're transitioning into the retirement, they're going to send you letters and notices, and I believe it's going to be 2 months and 4 months before you reach age 65, reminding and encouraging you to enroll in Medicare Parts A and Part B. So please pay attention to any letters that you are getting from the state health benefits plan and do exactly what they're telling you to do, because I've seen instances where individuals didn't do what they were supposed to do. And as a result of that, that discount that you get on on your premiums, they were wiped out for this individual until they could show that they were properly enrolled in Medicare. So just be aware of that. Another tool that I want to mention today is your My Social Security account. And if you don't already have a My Social Security account, I want to strongly encourage you to please visit our website at socialsecurity.gov. Then you're going to select the icon for My Social Security. Now, how you access this information is you either have to have an ID.me account, or you can use your login.gov account. You have to use either one of those, because in the past you used to have a username and password, but we have since decommissioned that and grandfathered it, and you can't access it anymore because the government was trying to shore up all of government's computer systems. And this was one of the ways that they said that they were going to do it, is that anybody who accesses a government website, such as a My Social Security account, you have to have either the ID.me or the login.gov account. account, and it's your choice as to which one you want to utilize. If you're planning to live overseas, then you must have the ID.me account, because that way you'll be able to access this information if you're residing overseas. But it's real easy to do. Once you use that username and password, what you're going to see is your kind of welcoming screen. It'll show you your estimated benefit at 62, full retirement age, and up to age 70. Also, it's going to show you some other information that you may want to engage in with our webpage, such as number one, if you ever need a replacement Social Security card, log into your My Social Security account. You're going to give us information from either your driver's license or your state issued ID. We'll process that request, and then we'll mail you that replacement card in about 10 to 14 business days. Also, you're going to see that calculator or that graph in the middle of the screen that'll let you move the arrow and play with your numbers. So if you decide to do a what if scenario, thinking that maybe I'll retire at 65 in 10 months, you enter in that information and it will project what that estimated Social Security benefit would be for you. Other things that you can do behind the portal is if you ever need to update your address, telephone number, start or change your direct deposit, you can do all of that here for yourself. One of the things I recommend.
Anise, may I
Yes.
interrupt you for a moment?
Mm-hmm.
Your slides are not advancing.
Which screen are you seeing?
I'm seeing your work screen, your workspace.
Oh, you're seeing, okay, let me go back. Sorry about that. Not sure what happened here, but we can fix this.
Not a problem.
Okay, thank you for the update. Let's see, I might have changed when I was looking for, let's see, sharing and.
So if you
Now-
go to slideshow, then
So
we'll
now are you seeing it or no?
No, we still see your workspace.
Okay, let me just stop sharing. And let me just make sure I don't have anything up and open, because I call myself being prepared this morning. I apologize. Sorry about that.
Not a problem.
Okay, now are you seeing it?
We see your workspace, but I think we see the slide you want. If you go down to the bottom,
Right,
Okay.
and
you see that little screen? There you
Now-
go.
okay, because I had that on my screen. I don't know what happened, but okay, and I apologize for the technical error, but hopefully you are following along with me. And as I was saying here with the My Social Security account, some of the things that you can do behind the portal here, you're going to be able to look at your estimated benefit. If you ever needed to update your address, telephone number, start or change direct deposit. You can also view copies of letters that we send you at Social Security. You'll have a specialized repository here. If you need a replacement Medicare card or a 1099 or 1042 for tax purposes, you can also get this information here. But one of the things I typically recommend to individuals is at least log into your account at least once a year so you can look at your earnings record. When you get to your earnings record, be sure to expand it out completely so you see all of your years and all of the earnings that was ever reported to Social Security. When you scroll across that year, it'll show you what employers reported those earnings for you. If you notice that there is a discrepancy with your earnings, you now have the option to upload either a W-2 or a tax return, and that's going to send us an alert to go back and look at those earnings. So if we need to make an adjustment on those earnings, we can do so, because it may make a difference when it comes time for us to calculate how much are you going to get from Social Security. Trying to think. Other things that you can do behind the My Social Security portal is when it is time for you to file for retirement, Medicare, disability, or even if you needed to file an appeal, you can do that through your My Social Security account. And also you can check the status of your application, because it will show you the percentage that is completed. And then once you get to 100%, then it will also then later display that notice in your notice repository there for yourself. So that's going to be a few of the things that you can do behind the My Social Security portal for yourself. Okay, so now we're going to talk about how do you qualify for a Social Security retirement benefit. Of course, we all know that we need to work, but at some point over your career, you had to have worked for an employer who pays into Social Security for you. You're going to know that is because you're going to notice that they're deducting FICA or Social Security taxes out of your pay, and then you're going to know that you're contributing into Social Security. So for this year, for 2024, each $1,730 in earnings will give you 1/4 of coverage. You can earn a maximum of 4 quarters per year. So for 2024, as long as you have grossed at least $6,920 in this year, you get your 4 quarters of coverage. The minimum requirement to get something from Social Security is 40 credits or quarters of coverage. So at a bare minimum, you worked paying into Social Security for at least 10 years. Then when you are age 62 or older, you would be eligible for something from Social Security. But let's just take a look to determine what that something is. So when we're trying to figure out how much are you going to get from Social Security, first and foremost, the wages are going to be adjusted for changes in wage levels over time. Secondly, we're going to pull in your highest 35 years of earnings over your lifetime. And that's why I tell you to expand out that earnings history so you can look and see what your high 35 is. We pull in the highest 35 years of earnings over your lifetime. A lot of people have the misconception of thinking that it is the last 5 or last 10 years. That's not true. We pull in your high 35, and it does not have to be consecutive years of earnings. We're going to use that in the formula, and the result of that is going to be the average index monthly earnings. That is going to equate out to how much are you going to get from Social Security. Now, earlier I stated that you could take your benefit as young as age 62, or you may want to elect to wait until your full retirement age. Your full retirement age is based upon your year of birth. So take a moment to find your year of birth on the screen. The middle column shows your full retirement age, or sometimes you'll hear people at Social Security refer to this as FRA. What this means is if you wait until that particular age to contact Social Security to start to take that benefit, you get 100% of your benefit. If you take your benefit before your full retirement age, your benefit, it will be reduced. And just know that individuals who are born 1960 or later, our full retirement age is 67. So if we choose to take our benefit early, say at age 62, then instead of getting 100% of the benefit, we're only going to be starting off receiving 70%, because off of the rip, there's going to be a 30% reduction because we chose to take this benefit early. I do have an example here for us. This example makes the assumption that the individual's full retirement age is 66, and at age 66, the benefit amount is $1,000. So if an individual chose to take their benefit early, say at age 62, then instead of getting $1,000 a month, they're looking at receiving $750 a month because there's going to be the reduction for taking the benefit early. But let's just suppose this individual whose full retirement age is 66, that when they do reach age 66, for whatever reason, they are not ready to start taking their cash benefit from Social Security. So they're not ready to start taking that that retirement benefit from Social Security. And anytime you wait past your full retirement age, you can earn what we call our delayed retirement credits, or sometimes you'll hear them called DRCs. But anytime you wait past your full retirement age, you can earn up to 8% for every 12 months that you wait or delay in taking this benefit, all the way up until age 70. And age 70 is just the point that we stop the calculation. So in this example here, that if this individual whose full retirement age was 66, and if their benefit at their full retirement age was $1,000, but if they chose to take this benefit at age 70, then instead of getting $1,000, this individual is looking at receiving $1,320 per month. That is the gross amount of the benefit. Social Security does not withhold taxes from your benefit unless you ask us to do so. And if that is the case, we would withhold federal taxes only from your Social Security benefit. But again, that is only if you ask us to do so. Now, in addition to you, who else can get a benefit from your record? Well, of course, your child, as long as he or she is age 18 or 19 and still in high school, or if you have a child that is disabled, they are not married, and as long as we can determine that their disability began before the age of 22. Now, in addition to your child, your spouse may be eligible to receive a benefit off of your record, as long as your spouse is age 62 or older with little or no work history, that you guys have been married for at least a year or longer, or that spouse may be eligible to receive a benefit off of your record at any age, as long as he or she is caring for a child that is under the age of 16 or disabled. And I know somebody asked about, will I be talking about the windfall and government pension offset, but someone else will be talking about that just a little bit later on. Again, I just want to give you the basics of the requirements to qualify for a benefit for Social Security. Okay, here. So in addition, so let's talk about the potential spousal benefit that your spouse may be eligible to receive off of your record. Well, in order for your spouse to qualify for this benefit, the first thing that has to happen is that you, the primary number holder, you have to file the application to receive your benefit, and you have to be receiving that cash retirement benefit from Social Security, or I always say cash, but I'm talking about that retirement benefit from Social Security. Once both of those things happen, then that opens up the window of opportunity for then your spouse to come in and say, I want to file for a potential spousal benefit off of my husband's or wife's record. The first thing that we're going to look to see is this person eligible for a Social Security benefit off of their own Social Security number? If the answer is yes, we look to see how much is it. We're going to look to see, is it less than half of your benefit? If it is, then we can potentially increase their benefit to up to half of whatever your benefit would be at your full retirement age. This does not include those delayed retirement credits, but in order for your spouse to get up to half of your benefit, he or she must be at his or her full retirement age. Because if they want to start this benefit early, say at age 62, then instead of receiving up to 50% of your benefit, they're looking at receiving approximately 30%. And just keep in mind that them taking the spousal benefit, it does not reduce what you, the primary number holder, would receive. Because that, again, is another common misconception that a lot of people seem to have about the spousal benefit. Now, for those of you who are married, take a moment to look at the screen here and find your spouse's year of birth. The next column is going to show what their full retirement age is. Again, I want to go back to that first example where I said that your benefit at your full retirement age is $1,000. And then notice the last column shows that if your benefit is $1,000, that means the most that your spouse can draw off of your record while you are alive and well is up to half of your benefit. So the most your spouse can get is $500 in this example. And both the third and the fourth column show that if either one of you chooses to take your benefit early, it shows how much that benefit would be reduced by. Now, in addition to a current spouse, a former spouse may be potentially eligible to receive a benefit off of your record, known as that divorced spouse potential benefit. Again, but this time the person who you were married to, they had to have been married to you for 10 consecutive years of marriage. They are currently not married and they are age 62 or older. In this situation or scenario, your ex-spouse, the person you're divorced from, all he or she needs to be is age 62 or older and eligible to receive either a retirement benefit or they qualify for a disability benefit. They don't have to be actually receiving it, just entitled to that benefit. And what we do for that divorced spouse is we look to see what can you get off of your own record first. If your amount is less than half of the person that you're divorced from, then we can combine those two amounts to get you up to half of whatever that benefit, that person's benefit would be. But again, you must be at your full retirement age in order to be eligible to receive up to half of that individual's benefit here. I have a couple of examples for us to take a look at this morning. The first example we have is with Ricky and Lucy. In this example, we have that Ricky, he's receiving $1,200 a month from Social Security. Half of that is $600. His wife, Lucy contacts Social Security and lets us know that she wants to file for a spousal benefit off of Ricky's record. Well, the first thing that we're going to look to see is Lucy eligible for anything off of her own Social Security number? When we take a look, we notice notice that she's eligible to receive $1,000 a month from her own record. So when we do the comparison, $1,000 is greater or more than what she would receive off of Ricky's record, because she'd only get up to $600 off of Ricky's record. So therefore, Lucy would not qualify for a spousal benefit simply because she can get more money off of her own Social Security record. So she would not be eligible to receive that spousal benefit. And that was because of some changes with the Bipartisan Budget Act of 2015 was the reason for that change. Now let's take a look at the next example where we have Luke and Laura here. In this example, Laura, she contacts Social Security and she files for her benefit, and she's eligible to receive $1,800 a month. Once she starts to receive her $1,800 a month, this now opens up the window for her husband, Luke, who's already been receiving benefits off of his own record in the amount of $600 a month. Now, because Laura filed and has started to receive her $1,800 a month, Luke is now eligible to receive an additional $300 from Laura's record. So when we add it together, 6 plus 3, that's 900. That's going to get him up to half of Laura's record. Also keep in mind that if Luke and Laura had any eligible children, they also could receive a benefit from Laura's record. Now, if for any reason Laura were to decide to stop receiving or to suspend that $1,800 a month that she's getting from Social Security, that extra $300 that Luke is getting, that will stop. Also keep in mind that if they have any eligible children who are receiving a benefit from Laura's record, that would stop for the children as well. The exception to this is the divorced spouse. The divorced spouse, that individual would still be able to continue to receive their benefit. Now I want to transition and talk about the potential benefit that may be available when your spouse passes away. First of all, we look to see who's eligible, starting again with your child. As long as he or she is age 18 or 19 and still in high school, they're eligible for a survivor's benefit. Then, of course, if you have a disabled child, as long as that child is not married and we're able to determine the disability began before the age of 22, they also can draw a survivor's benefit off of the record. Then we have the widow, the widower, or the divorced widow or widower. They're eligible to receive reduced benefits as young as age 60, or they may elect to wait until their full retirement age to apply for a survivor's benefit, or they can get this benefit at any age, as long as they are caring for a child that is under the age of 16 or disabled. And then the last bullet here talks about divorced widows and widowers may qualify, but remember, you must meet the divorced spouse's criteria. You had to have been married to this person for 10 consecutive years or longer. You are currently not married and you're age 62 or older. Now, with the survivor's benefit, if someone elects to take this benefit at age 60, then they're looking at receiving 71.5% of the deceased worker's amount. If someone chooses this option, then when they reach the age of age 62, we at Social Security, we're going to come back around to look to see how much could this person get off of their own record at age 62. And if their amount is higher, then we're going to switch them to their own record at age 62. Now, if someone waits until age 62 to apply for a survivor's benefit, they're looking at receiving 82.5% of the deceased worker's amount. Or someone may elect to choose to take this benefit at their full retirement age. Therefore, they'd be eligible to receive 100% of the deceased worker's amount. Also, this gives them the opportunity to leave their own benefit alone, let it continue to grow up until age 70. At age 70, we at Social Security, we're going to come back around and take a second look to see, can this person get a higher benefit off of their own record at age 70? And if that is the case, then we're going to switch them to their own record. And then the last bullet here talks about that full benefits are available to the widow, the widower, or the divorced widow or widower. So all we're saying here is that if the person who passed away, if they had a current spouse, as long as they have been married to this person for at least a year or longer, then that individual is eligible to receive a survivor's benefit. And if they were divorced from someone who meets the divorced spouse's criteria, that person as well would be eligible to receive a benefit, a survivor's benefit off of this individual's record. Now, one of the common questions we always get at Social Security is individuals always want to know, can I go back to work once I start to receive a retirement benefit from Social Security? The short answer is yes, you can, but you need to know, what are you up against? So for this year, for 2024, if you are under your full retirement age, meaning you started to take a cash benefit from Social Security age 62 or before you reach that full retirement age, and you go back to work, you can work and earn $22,320 for the year. Breaking that down to a monthly amount, your monthly earnings need to be $1,860 gross per month. As long as you don't go over that, you are good to go. But if you do, we at Social Security, we're going to send you a letter in the mail letting you know that that we paid you too much money, and that you're going to have to pay us back $1 for every two that you went over. Now, in the year where you reach your full retirement age, that earnings limit, it goes up. For this year, for 2024, is $59,520 for the year. Breaking that down to a monthly amount, that's $4,960 per month. Again, as long as you don't go over your golden. But this time, if you do, you have to pay us back $1 for every three that you went over. So let's just suppose that I'm going to reach my full retirement age in this month, and I'm going to say November because we're in November now. And I was also working and receiving my Social Security benefits. So what that means is that I can work and earn from January 1st through October 31st, $59,520 for the year. As long as I don't go over, I'm good to go. But now, because we're in November, when November 1st rolls around, at that point, there is no limit to how much I can work and earn because, number one, I've reached my full retirement age. Social Security does not care about how much I work and earn. I always tell people that, you can make $1 million. It's not going to phase us at all. But I also tell people to be aware, because then the IRS is going to have their hand out, because then they're going to be wanting their piece of the pie from you. So always make sure before you do anything, you're talking to your financial planner, talking to your tax preparer or your accountant. So that way, as you transition into retirement, there's no surprises about what's going to happen with you. Also, I like to highlight that when I'm talking about these numbers that you're seeing on the screen here, I am strictly talking about you going back to work, either working for an employer who is deducting Social Security or FICA taxes out of your pay, or if you elect to be self-employed and you are paying your self-employment taxes. So that's what these numbers encompass. They do not talk about or take into consideration your pension, annuity, savings, rental income, VA compensation, any other type of income. That is not what these working while earning limits represent. Only talk about if you are actually going back to work, working for an employer who's taking out FICA taxes, or if you are self-employed and paying your self-employment taxes. The other question I usually get with regards to these earnings limits is that sometimes a person will mention something to the gist of they started to take their Social Security benefit at age 62, and they decided to go get a little part-time job somewhere because they wanted to stay active and to stay busy. They always want to know what happens to these new earnings. And yes, you can ask questions if you want to put them in the chat, and I will stop at a certain point to take additional questions. So someone will always ask what happens to these new earnings. So once you reach your full retirement age, then we at Social Security, we're going to come back and we're going to do what we call is a recalculation, or sometimes you'll hear us call it a recomp, because remember, what you get from Social Security is based upon your highest 35 years of earnings over your lifetime. So if these new earnings do make a difference, then you're going to get a letter in the mail from Social Security that says, this is what we paid you. This is what we should have paid you. We send you the difference in the money that we owe you. And then you're going to notice that you're going to have a new monthly benefit amount. So we do go back and recalculate that, but only after you've reached your full retirement age. Another common question that we get here at Social Security quite a bit is people always want to know whether or not the Social Security benefit is taxable. My response is it depends, because in order to determine whether or not the Social Security benefit will be taxed, we have to look at, or I should say IRS looks at your adjusted gross income from your tax return. You're going to add to it any non-taxable interest that you may have, and whatever you're getting in Social Security, you cut it in half and you add it together. That is your your combined income. Once you have your combined income, then we need to figure out, how are you filing your taxes? Are you filing your taxes as an individual or as a member of a couple? If you are an individual and if your combined income is less than $25,000, you do not pay taxes on the Social Security benefit. If your combined income for an individual is between $25,000 to $34,000, you could pay taxes on up to 50% of that Social Security benefit. And if for an individual that combined income is more than $34,000, you could pay taxes on up to 85% of the Social Security benefit. And this is a IRS regulation, not Social Security. We like to make people aware of this. Again, I'm going to encourage you to make sure you're talking to your financial planner, your tax preparer, or your accountant, whoever you need to talk to. Or you can always visit irs.gov looking for publication number 554, which is the tax guide for seniors, if you need additional information regarding this topic here. Now, when it is time for you to apply for benefits with Social Security, the earliest that you can start the process, so the earliest you can contact us, is 3 months in advance. So 3 months before you're ready for your retirement benefit to start, and 3 months before you are ready to enroll in Medicare. That's when you can contact us. The easiest way to contact us is, of course, online via your My Social Security account, and you can file that application online. Or if you choose, make sure that you contact either our national 800 number or your local servicing Social Security office to schedule a telephone appointment with us. And here in Georgia, we are going to take these applications via the telephone. So what we're doing is, because we're opening up our calendar so that to give the public more options. So just because you may call the Rome office or the Gainesville office to schedule that appointment, it may not necessarily be someone from that office who's going to speak with you, because it may be somebody from Savannah, Brunswick, Dalton, or another Social Security office across the state. Because once we've opened up and we do what we have as a common calendar, we find that we can offer you more appointments earlier in time to help you to go ahead and get everything process. And it helps to ease the stress of you knowing that your Social Security application has been taken, it is processed, and we're just waiting on that magic date for your check to start for you. But rest assured, whether you're filing online or if you're speaking to a representative, you're going to be asked the same questions. So if we need anything from you, such as a marriage certificate, a divorce decree, or if we need your financial information to establish your direct deposit, we'll let you know. If you filed online based upon your zip code, that's going to tell you what local office to get that information into. If you are speaking to a representative, then they're going to direct you on how to get that information to them so that they can process that claim for you. This is normally where I normally tell people that if you haven't listened to anything that I've said thus far, you want to perk up, because you want to know, when are you going to get your money from Social Security? First of all, please understand that Social Security, we do not pay for partial months. You have to be that age throughout the whole month. So if your birthday falls on either the first or the second day of the month, we give you credit for that month. If your birthday falls on the third, then we got to go to the next month. The next thing that you need to understand is that benefits are paid the month following the month that they're due. So if you contacted Social Security in this month, November, wanting to start your retirement benefits, and you say, I want my benefits to start in November, we're going to say great, and your first check comes in December. Then depending on your day of birth, that is going to determine what Wednesday of the month you're going to receive your benefits. So if your birthday is the 1st through the 10th, that is the 2nd Wednesday of the month. The 11th through the 20th is the 3rd Wednesday of the month, and the 21st through the 31st is the 4th Wednesday of the month. So please pay attention to when your payment date is, and if you notice that your payment date is going to be late in the month, make sure you're saving yourself enough money to tide you over until that benefit will start, because your payment date, that is set in stone. Now I'm going to pause here because someone did ask, can they ask questions? Do we have any questions? Because I don't see any in the chat here for me. Did someone have a question? Okay, somebody's asking about what if your school system doesn't pay into Social Security. Again, I'm not going to address that right now because I believe the next person, I believe it's Miss Cheryl, she's going to come with a wealth of information talking about windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset. I'm just talking about the basics of what you need to qualify for that Social Security benefit first, and then she talks about those other provisions of the law that may affect that potential Social Security benefit. So just hang on there because somebody will address that for you today. I don't see any other questions, so I'm going to go ahead and jump into Medicare. What Social Security's responsibility with Medicare is very limited. We only do two things. Number one, when you are age 65 or older and Medicare eligible and you are applying for Medicare, Social Security is the federal agency you contact to enroll in Medicare Parts A and Part B. And even if you're thinking you want to do an Advantage plan with someone else, or if that is what your retirement system is requiring you to do, you still got to come to Social
Yeah, because
Security.
the other part was black.
You still have to come to Social Security first, enroll in Part A, Part B. Once you get that red, white, and blue card,
It's probably the garlic and stuff they put on top.
once you get that, then you take
mute
that
yourself.
over. I do hear some.
You are not muted. Please mute yourself. Anise, you're muted.
I got it. I saw it across the screen. Okay. So just remember that if with Medicare, even if you want to do an Advantage plan, you got to come to Social Security first, enroll in Part A, Part B. Once you get your red, white, and blue card, then you give that to that private company whose plan you want to enroll in. The second thing with regards to Medicare is that once you are age 65 or older and you're getting a retirement benefit from Social Security, then by law, we are required to deduct that Medicare premium out of your Social Security benefit, and we send that over to the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services for you. So the two things that Social Security does with regards to Medicare is number one, we'll take your application, and number two, we take your money. That is all that we do with regards to Medicare. So if you have questions with regards to what is covered by Medicare, you would either need to contact or go to Medicare.gov's website, or another source such as maybe your health benefits plans administrator to look for additional information there with regards to Medicare. So who can get Medicare? Anyone who is age 65 or older, individuals who have been on Social Security disability for 24 months or longer, individuals with ALS, and of course individuals who have permanent kidney failure and receives maintenance dialysis or a kidney transplant can qualify for or are eligible for Medicare. With Medicare, there are three different enrollment periods you need to be aware of. The first is the initial enrollment period, also known as the IEP. This is your very first chance or opportunity you ever get to enroll in Medicare. It is a 7-month window. It starts 3 months before you reach age 65, your birthday month where you reach age 65, and 3 months after that. Again, this is your first opportunity to ever enroll in Medicare. The next enrollment period that you may come across is the special enrollment period, or the SEP. This is going to be for those individuals who may still be working at age 65. But the kicker to this is, are you covered under a group healthcare plan? Meaning, are you covered under a group healthcare plan of someone who is actively working, either yourself or your spouse who has you on their insurance? If the answer to that is yes, then whenever that individual who has the insurance leaves employment, then you have 8 months to contact Social Security to enroll in Medicare, and we consider that timely enrollment without a penalty. The last enrollment period that you may be aware of is the general enrollment period, or the GEP, the general enrollment period. This is every single year from January 1st through March 31st. This is also for all of those individuals where who didn't enroll initially in the initial enrollment period, or if they did and they didn't pay their premium, so they got kicked off the rolls. This is their opportunity to re-enroll. But what we do under the general enrollment period is we're going to look to see what was the first opportunity you could have enrolled in Medicare, because this is where we have to assess whether or not a 10% penalty will be assessed to the individual. And keep in mind that 10% penalty, that is for forever, in addition to whatever the Medicare premium is. Now, how coverage is going to start. So if you're in your initial enrollment period, that first opportunity, if you enroll 3 months before you reach age 65, your coverage starts in your birthday month. If you waited until your birthday month or 3 months after that, in any of the months after that, then in whatever month you enroll in, your coverage starts the very next month is how that's going to work for you. Now with Medicare, you have two different options in determining which way you want to go. First up, you can either elect to enroll in Original Medicare, which consists of Part A, and Part A is going to be free for most people because remember when I said as long as you have those 40 quarters of coverage and you're going to be eligible for a benefit with Social Security, as long as you have those 40 quarters of coverage, A is not going to cost you anything. Also, if you've been paying your Medicare taxes, then you should be good to go. But Part B, everybody has to pay for Part B. The base premium for 2024 is $174.70. If you are someone who makes a lot of money, in addition to that base premium, you could have to pay an additional surcharge. And I'll talk about that in just a few moments here. On Original Medicare, you have the option to add on a Part D prescription drug plan. The cost of that is going to vary from provider to provider. You're going to have to do your due diligence if you elect to add on a Part D plan to see what they offer and then to see what the cost of that would be. Average cost for Part D plans is roughly about $34 a month. And that is in addition to that Part B premium. Also under Original Medicare, if you elect, you can add on a supplemental insurance policy or coverage, also known as Medigap. That's going to help you to pay some of those out-of-pocket expenses. Again, that cost is going to vary from provider to provider. Your other option is to go with a Medicare Advantage plan, also known as Medicare Part C. This is where that private company is going to bundle together Part A, Part B, sometimes maybe even add in Part D and something extra, such as a dental or a vision plan, all for a predetermined cost. What I usually tell people with regards to this is where you have to figure out how you're going to go. Also know that as you're going into retirement, especially under the teachers retirement system, do they already have selected plans that you need to look into in terms of opting into one of those plans? So make sure that you're doing your homework to figure out what you need to select for yourself, because we at Social Security, this is an area where we are not authorized to advise people on what to do with regards to Medicare. Now, I do have a couple of scenarios I'm going to walk through before we wrap this up. This first scenario talks about that if a person has started to receive a cash benefit from Social Security, say at age 62, then when they reach age 65, do they need to come running into Social Security to enroll in Medicare? The answer is no. 3 months before you reach age 65, we at Social Security, we are going to send you a letter in the mail letting you know that we've enrolled you in Medicare. You're going to get your red, white, and blue card in the mail. And the next thing you're going to notice is that money will be deducted from your check. So money's going to be missing from your check because we will take care of enrolling you and also making sure that your premiums are being paid for you. Now, this next scenario talks about that if a person is still working at age 65, and as long as you have current employee health coverage, either through your employer or your spouse's employer, you have options here. I always tell everybody to, number one, talk to your employer to determine whether or not they require you to enroll in Medicare. If they don't, think about selecting A only, because remember, A is not going to cost you anything. And you're going to tell us, nope, I do not want Part B right now because I'm still working and I have insurance through my employer. Then when you leave employment, you have 8 months to contact Social Security to enroll in Part B without a penalty. Also, please pay attention to the note that is in the middle of the screen that if part of your benefits package, if you have elected the option of having a high deductible health savings account, that HSA, and this is where the employer is putting money into the account and you are contributing into the account. What IRS rules state is both. Everybody has to stop putting money into that account 6 months before you can enroll in Medicare Part A, because otherwise you're going to subject yourself to a tax liability. Again, this is not a Social Security regulation, but an IRS one. So if you need additional information, I would encourage you to visit irs.gov to seek more information with regards to the high deductible HSA when it is time for you to enroll in Medicare. So if you are still working at age 65 and you're covered under that group healthcare plan, when it is time for you to enroll in Medicare with Social Security, it's very easy for you to do. There's 2 forms that you're going to need to have completed and sent into Social Security together. The first form is the L564. This is a form that you're going to have someone in your HR department to complete for you, because this is going to show when did your health insurance coverage, what was the start date, and then we at Social Security are looking at the end date of that coverage, because that end date tells us when to start counting those 8 months for you. The other form that you need to complete is the CMS Form 40B. That's the actual application where you're going to check what you want to enroll in, whether it is Part A or Part B or both. What I'm telling you is to make sure that you send both of those forms into Social Security together. Think of those 2 forms as a happily married couple. They're never getting to a divorce. So they're going to be like peanut butter and jelly, because they're going to stick together and come back to Social Security. If you send one of those forms without the other, there is nothing that we at Social Security can do to process your request until we get that second form. And at whatever date and time we get that second form, that is where we will process your request from, and we will not go back retroactively. So please, please, please make sure that you fax those 2 forms into your local Social Security office in a timely manner so we can process them, so that way you have a smooth transition into the Medicare coverage into retirement. Also, just remember again, failure to enroll timely after those 8 months could result in a 10% penalty for every 12 months that you waited or delayed in enrolling in Medicare. Now, my next scenario here talks about that if you are not working at age 65 and you have not started your cash benefit from Social Security, you can file what we call as a Medicare only application. When you do this, the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, they're going to send you a quarterly bill so that you'll have to pay 3 months worth of Medicare premiums in advance. If you find that you can't pay 3 months worth of Medicare premiums at one time, please go to Medicare.gov, create a Medicare account for yourself, so that way you can pay your premiums directly to Medicare. Also, another option that they have is called Medicare Easy Pay. This is where you're going to give them information from either a checking or a savings account. They're going to debit that account on a monthly basis. Then once that Social Security benefit starts, then at that point, we at Social Security will start to deduct the Medicare premiums out of your Social Security benefit. Now, earlier I mentioned that if you are a higher wage earner, you may have to pay a little bit more for Medicare. How Social Security determines that is that we're looking at your modified adjusted gross income from your tax return, but we're looking at your tax return from 2 years in the past. So for 2024, we look at your tax return from 2022. So when we go to 2025, we'll be looking at your tax return from 2023 to find out where does your income fall, depending on if you're an individual or if you're filing as a couple. So wherever your income falls, that determines how much your Part B premium will be. And if you are enrolled in Part D, how much your Part D premium would be. Also keep in mind that if you are a married couple and both of you are enrolled in Medicare, the amount that you see on the screen is the amount that each member of the couple would have to pay. Here on the screen is just a snippet of the Medicare.gov's website. So if you wanted to go there for some additional information, because they're going to explain out things such as, what does Medicare coverage, what's the difference between original Medicare and Advantage plan. They're going to explain it in plain English for you to understand. Also, if you are someone and you may need a little extra help, you can click on the link. I believe if you go there and do a search for someone to talk to, it will give you a link, and then you're going to pull down your state and then open it up or click on that link, and it'll provide organizations that may be able to provide assistance from the state that you may be residing in. Also here in Georgia, you can contact the Georgia State Health Insurance Plan or the Georgia SHIP as well. But I'm going to encourage you, especially since, you're kind of like the federal government, because you get to take your health insurance with you into retirement. Be sure to see what the offerings are from the state health insurance plan, because they are great for you to utilize and have have for yourself. So make sure that you're studying those different options as well. If you've never seen one, this is a Medicare card for you. It has a series of letters and numbers here on the screen. Also, it's going to show what you are enrolled in, whether it is Part A or Part B, and the effective date of the coverage there for yourself. And this is going to conclude my presentation for today. And someone says that they are being charged for Medicare Part B, and I don't understand why. But Miss Veronica, let me just tell you, everybody has to pay for Part B. Part A, that's the free part for you. Part B, everybody has to pay for Part B, starting with the base premium $174.70, or you may have to pay a little bit more if you are a higher wage earner, but everybody has to pay for Part B. No exceptions. That's just the way Congress made those rules are. And
All right,
someone,
we're going to take general questions, not about your specific circumstances, but questions that are beneficial to the whole. If you have questions about your specific circumstances, contact your local Social Security office for an appointment or call the 800 number. Are there any general questions? Beverly, you're on mute. Beverly, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
yes.
Okay, what I was saying, that's fine. And every time they come on, we're told the same thing. But you can't just go into a Social Security office. I have been there over 20 times, and they have been my worst nightmare. And they don't answer questions. And I don't, how many appointments, how many times I've been there. You know, I have been so distraught my whole retirement, ever since I've been retired, and the situation still is not fixed. And, you know, we're always told, well, you come to the meetings, but you can't ask questions. What is the purpose for coming to the meetings? We have the information, but there's nobody that you can sit and talk to that will tell you anything. They always tell you, well, we'll get back to you, or, you know, you'll hear from us. If you don't hear from us in 30 days, come back. I have been to the Social Security office every single month for over 2 years. And I've also called Medicare. Social Security told me, well, if you pay this much money, you'll be caught up on your Medicare and then pay the money. Medicare told me every day almost for a year, not a month, a year, that they were going to pay me my money back. I never got the money back to this day. You know, so who do you talk to? And that's my question. Who do you talk to? You can't call anybody. They tell you the same thing. You know, who do you talk to if you have an issue with Social Security or Medicare?
Well, Ms. Rice, I don't know what your situation is, but I just sent you directly my email address because this sounds like an ongoing issue, so that you can give me your telephone number. That way I can call you back to get more about the specifics of your situation. And that way I can see if I can't escalate it to find out what's going on and help you to get a resolution.
And you know what? And I'm not being disrespectful, but I've heard the word escalate. They're going to escalate it for 2 years, since February of 2023. I've heard those same words. We're going to escalate it. And
I understand what you're saying, and I understand your frustration, but what I'm asking you to do is offline, email me with your telephone number so I can contact you to find out thank you, ma'am. And that way we can go from there, because I work for the state director. I promise you it's going to move.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm going to turn it back over to you, Miss Tony.
Okay, couple of questions in the chat. What constitutes a high wage person?
Like I said, let me go back to the slide here that I showed just a moment ago. See if I can back it up here. A higher wage individual, where we're looking at your modified adjusted gross income, and every year it changes. Once Medicare decides, number one, lets us know what the new premium will be for Part B. Then also they're going to tell us what the new modified gross income limits will be. But these are the limits for 2024, where we look at your 2022 tax return to see where your income falls to determine whether or not you're paying that base premium or if you have to pay a little bit more.
Okay, question from Deborah. If we have declined SHBP because we use the spouse's health insurance while we're both working, is there a reason to switch to SHBP while we're working? If you declined SHBP, you might be out of luck. It usually requires a life-changing event for you to be able to opt back into SHBP. My suggestion is that you contact SHBP directly and see whether or not you qualify to come back into the fold. Don't be disappointed if they tell you you are not, because it is a one-time in option, and if you decline it, then that's pretty much it. Those of you who do have state health benefits plan, do not drop it. Do not drop it, because once you're gone, you're gone. You can never get back in. And the Medicare Advantage programs that we have cannot be matched by the private market. They are the best out there. So it's something that you need to keep. If you have it, do not drop it, because once you go out, you can never get back in. And please don't let anybody tell you differently. Please don't let anybody talk you into going into the private market, because you've got benefits that cannot be met by the private market. Are there any other questions? Let's see, I see a new message in the chat. I'm new to this and it's all foreign language, but this will be an ongoing teaching for us, because the more I listen, the more I can get. Yes, it's a lot. We understand that it's a lot. And, this is a 4-hour session and we're not going to make it any longer, but perhaps what we can do is offer a seminar specifically about health insurance. So we'll make a note of that and we'll get back to you on that. Watch your email. Any other questions? Let's see, I saw one just come in. No, okay. All right, well, you've heard pretty much the good news. Now we're going to have to give you the bad news. Cheryl Sarvis is going to talk to you about the government pension offset and the windfall elimination provision. Please understand that she is just the messenger. This is an ongoing political battle. It is not something that we have control over. As a union, we are working through our national union and our state union to get this repealed. But right now, this is the law of the land. And so I'm sorry in advance for what you're about to hear, but this is the reality of it. I'm going to share my screen, and Cheryl, when you're ready, you may begin. Just unmute yourself.
Okay, you need to back it up to two slides. Yeah, there you go. Okay. First of all, before we get started, I'm Cheryl Sarvis. I've been involved in the GPO and WEP trying to get it repealed for 30 years now. NEA and GAE work diligently along those lines, and we'll be talking a little bit more about that in the end. But why is it that we do this part of the workshop? One reason is because a lot of people don't know about this when they start to work. In Georgia, in particular, some counties are under Social Security and pay into Social Security, meaning that the county and the employee pays into Social Security. And if you have been under Social Security and paid in for 35 years, this will not directly affect you. But I guarantee you it will affect some member of your family or someone that you know, so you need to listen very carefully. It's very important that we do this, because a lot of people get surprised at the age of 62 or 65 when they find out that they could have done something in advance to have prevented some of the bad aspects of this law that went into effect. and we'll talk about what you can do in a later slide. But some counties that are not on Social Security, one of the reasons that they opted in the 1970s to go off of Social Security is they were going to have to pay 6% or 7% into Social Security. And they said, well, we can do a better job. We can do our own retirement, and we can pay into that. Well, some of those counties did do one, and I can't tell you whether it was as effective as Social Security, but some of them did not. And some of them only paid a portion of that money in, so that it wasn't as effective in the end. Some said, well, we'll just raise the teachers' salaries or the employees' salaries, and we won't pay into Social Security, and we won't have a supplemental benefit, but we'll just pay them a higher salary, and then the teachers can go and do what they want to with the extra money that they're not having to pay in, that 6% that they're not having to pay in, because the employee and the employer has to pay into Social Security. Well, you know, when you're 25 years old and you're just starting out in teaching, you're certainly not thinking so much about whether or not you're going to have a retirement or what it's going to. Of course, back then, a lot of people talked about that Social Security wouldn't be around. Well, back then, when I was 25 years old and went into the teaching profession, they were saying Social Security wouldn't be around. We would all be in trouble if Social Security wouldn't be around, because it's a very big part of our gross income for the nation. But the reason we do this, because if you went into the profession, let's say at 25 or even at 20, then you could retire with 30 years in at 55. Well, you can't get Social Security at the minimum until 62 and or 65. And so there was a lot of time in between there that people didn't know that they were going to be jeopardized if they were in a system that didn't take out Social Security. But why would you want them to take out Social Security and have to pay into that? Because as Anise has just told you, that if you have 10 credits in, 10 years in, that's 40 credits, then you would be eligible to have some Social Security, not a lot, but since you're going to have Part B deducted from Medicare, you certainly want something for it to be deducted from, or else it's going to cost you a lot more in the long run. So that's some of the things that reasons why we do this. And I want to say in advance, please do call Social Security or make an appointment to see how this is going to affect you, because we don't always know when laws have been changed and have been updated and how it's going to affect you, but Social Security can tell you that. The first slide is 10 years of working is 40 credits. That's the minimum of getting into Social Security. Change, Tony? Okay, if you have less than 10 years of credits, well, then you would have no Social Security benefits based on your work record. Change. If you receive a retirement, disability, or pension from a federal, state, or local government based on your own work for which you didn't pay Social Security taxes, the government may reduce your Social Security spouses or widows or widowers benefits. Now, in order to get work credits at this point, it's each credit that you can get is for $1,730, and that you can get a maximum of 4 per year. But that number changes, and I think Elise gave a number that was a total of 6,000 and something during her presentation. But if you have the 4 credits, the 40 credits in, well, then you would be eligible for some Social Security. Change. Okay, the covered earnings are work-related earnings that are subject to Social Security taxation. You get on your W-2 form each year an amount that is telling you what is under Social Security, what you have paid into Social Security. Next, change. the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset are two separate provisions that reduce regular Social Security benefits for workers and their eligible family members if the worker receives or is entitled to a pension based on earnings from employment not covered by Social Security. Change. Back one, Tony. In 1977, Congress began treating government pensions such as those earned by educators as Social Security benefits. The effect of this change was a dollar-for-dollar reduction in Social Security survivor benefits for anyone also earning a public pension. In 1983, Congress amended the law to a 2/3 offset. Change. We're going to be talking about the GPO and the WEP. I just talked about the government pension offset, but the WEP was enacted in 1983 to prevent people with relatively high compensated government service and relatively low paying Social Security covered employment from having their Social Security benefits determined under more favorable formula used for the retirees with the lowest Social Security earnings. Change. The WEP is the one that is the windfall elimination provision. This is the one that affects our teachers who have not been under Social Security for 35 years. Now, even though you worked as a teacher or a paraprofessional or a bus driver or someone, you may have been under Social Security in other jobs that you had, such as summer jobs, in order to earn those. But the windfall elimination provision, if you earn a pension from an employer who doesn't withhold Social Security, taxes and you qualify for Social Security retirement or disability benefits from other work or other jobs, you may pay taxes. You may lose some of your Social Security benefits. And these pension jobs are often jobs working for governments on the federal, state, and local levels, such as teacher, police officer, and firefighters. Change. Any part of your pension is based on work not covered by Social Security. You may be affected by the windfall elimination provision. Next. And this could reduce your Social Security or eliminate portions of your Social Security because when you're adding up your Social Security benefits, let's say you have 25 years under Social Security and 10 not under Social Security, you would be averaging in 0 years for those 10 years that you were not under Social Security, and it can affect you. Next. Okay, this is a map that shows, back one. This is a map that shows you states that are under Social Security. The blue states are under Social Security. The red states are those that are not under Social Security. And then you see that Georgia and Kentucky are two states that some systems are under Social Security and some are not. So this covers a large portion of people. Okay, the next slide. There should be a little video with this, Tony. Did you get the video? Is there a video?
Not with this one.
Okay, if not, there was one at one point. But let me just say that this just doesn't affect just teachers. This also is something that is a loss to police officers, firefighters, paraprofessionals, and other people who work for governments. We work for state government, we work for local government, or we work for a national government, then we get a pension. But if our Social Security that we paid in, even though we paid in the same amount there's somebody else would be deducted for the times that we did not. Okay, next. Okay, the windfall elimination provision. And some of this may have been covered. As I said, sometimes people don't know about this provision because they retire. You know, I retired at 55. I was lucky. I went into teaching at 25 and then retired at 55 with 30 years in. So I might not have known about this had it not been for GAE and NEA and them advertising it for quite some time. Some systems are requiring now that they tell you about this provision. If they're not taking out Social Security, then you need to know about it so that you would know how it was going to affect you. But you would be able to work some extra years, either in get extra quarters and extra years credit if you knew about this. And so that's the reason that we're going through this. 35 years of substantial earnings would get you the maximum of Social Security to keep you from being jeopardized by this. But every quarter and every year that you pay in addition, you would be able to increase the amount of Social Security. In other words, the less it would affect you. Next. Okay, this is your W-2 form that you get each year, and it reports your Social Security wages. You would be able to know, you know, if you're paying into Social Security and during that time. And I would certainly go by all of Anissa's recommendations of finding out how much Social Security you've paid into so that you know whether or not, and some people may not know of some of those jobs that you had as when you were in college as a student, or those that were in between college years in the summertime. They would not know necessarily if they paid into Social Security, but you'd be able to find out that. Next. 1.9 million people are affected nationally by this. So it's a great number of people. And a lot of those are teachers. And 56,000 are affected by the WEP in Georgia. Next. The problem with this is that it reduces your retirement and disability benefits by up to 50% if you don't have those quarters in. Next. The substantial earnings for to have a full year covered is $27,300 for the year of 2022. And of course, this goes up each year. And that would be that if you had substantial earnings for every year for 35 years. Now, keeping in mind that it might have been just $1,000 back 30 years ago, because this has gone up every year. But if you have substantial earnings for every year, then for 35 years, then you would get the maximum that you would be able to get from Social Security. Next. The windfall elimination could take away as much as a half of your benefits for Social Security, which you want to do something to prevent that. The next one is, next slide, change. This is the windfall elimination provision, and we're going to talk about on the next one is a slide. Would you play the film? Thank you, Tony.
What's the windfall elimination provision for Social Security?
The windfall elimination provision is a rule that reduces Social Security retirement benefits for people who also collect a pension from what's called non-covered employment. Those are jobs in which people do not pay Social Security taxes.
You mean a job in which the employer doesn't withhold FICA taxes?
That's right. Today, most workplaces participate in Social Security, but some state and local government agencies do not. If you have a non-covered pension, but have also worked at least 10 years in jobs for which you paid Social Security taxes, so that you also qualify for Social Security benefits, the windfall elimination provision kicks in. It can reduce your monthly Social Security payment by up to half the amount of your pension, but it never reduces your benefit to zero. The more covered work you did, that is, the longer you paid Social Security taxes, the less the windfall elimination provision cuts into your benefits. To learn more, go to aarp.org/Social Security.
The next one, next slide. Okay, now we're going to talk about the GPO. That's the government pension offset. This is the one that affects spouses. Next. The government pension offset was put in 1977. The reason for the government pension offset was that they were thinking that people who got a pension from Social Security or from their work-related pension were pretty well off, in other words. So they thought that the government pension offset should be eliminated, eliminate some of the pension that people were entitled to on a spousal benefit. This has to do with the spousal benefit. As Anise had told you, the spousal benefit is in relation to a person who was the main, I guess, breadwinner, as we would say. And it could be the man or it could be the woman. But you would be able to get a spousal benefit if you didn't have your own Social Security. And the reason that we feel like that this is unfair is because spouses pay into this, but then spouses, when something happens to them, can not get a benefit of this. So it's very limited. Next, the government pension offset affects people who receive spousal or survivor benefits in addition to a non-covered government pension. Next. The GPO reduces Social Security spouses or widows benefit or spousal benefits for most people who are receiving a pension based on federal, state, or local government employee not covered by Social Security. Spouses and widowers of insured workers, because immediate family members are presumed to be dependent on a worker for their financial support and thus are presumed to be in need of benefits when the family experiences a loss of income due to the worker's retirement, disability, or death. A spousal benefit can be much as half of the worker's primary insurance amount. Next. We won't go through how exactly this is figured because I think Anise went through that with you, but it would be reduced in the situations where there was not, where the spouse had a Social Security benefit. They would not get a spousal benefit or it would be greatly reduced. Next. It could be as much as 2/3 reduction. Next. These are formulas that talk about the survivor benefits, so we're not going to go through and try to figure that. Just know that these two laws, the GPO and the WEP, are ones that affect people, and you need to look into to see if it affects you, especially if you're in a system that doesn't take out Social Security, or you have less than 35 years because you stayed maybe at home with your children and never got that many years into your pension plan. Next. It's possible that my dependent survivor benefits may be reduced to zero. Yes, it's called a total GPO offset. Next. 700,000 people are affected nationally and 20,000 in Georgia from this spousal benefit reduction. Next. is it possible that my, most of the people who are affected by the GPO are women, and many of low income and often ESPs or bus drivers. Next. 700,000 reduces the Social Security benefits of survivor benefits by 2/3 of the public pension. Nine out of 10 lose the entire spousal benefit. Next. Okay, I believe this is a video, Tony.
It is.
Yes.
Meet Kim. Kim is an assistant principal at a middle school. She's been a TRS member for 12 years. Before becoming an educator, Kim worked as a public librarian for 11 years. While working for the city, Kim paid into the Social Security system. Since she began working for her school district, Kim has not paid into Social Security. Like most Texas school districts, her district does not participate in Social Security. That means Kim is only eligible for Social Security benefits based on her previous employment with the city and through her spouse, who has paid into Social Security for his entire career. Kim is currently reading up on 2 Social Security provisions that could reduce or even eliminate her Social Security benefits. The Windfall Elimination Provision, also known as WEP or WEP, and the Government Pension Offset, or GPO. Because Kim will receive a TRS pension for employment in which she did not pay Social Security taxes, the Social Security benefits she earned from her previous employment could be reduced by the WEP but not totally eliminated. The amount of the reduction depends on the amount of her earnings and the number of years she paid Social Security taxes. The GPO, however, could offset or even eliminate Kim's spousal benefits if she retires from her current employer. The GPO will reduce her spousal Social Security benefits by 2/3 of her TRS pension. If 2/3 of Kim's TRS pension exceeds the amount of her spousal benefits from Social Security, she will not receive a spouse or widow's Social Security benefit. If you or your spouse has paid into the Social Security system, contact a Social Security representative to determine if the WEP or GPO apply to you. Ask if there are any exceptions to the GPO that could eliminate the offset to your spousal benefits. Be prepared to balance out the potential effects of these provisions with personal savings when you retire.
Okay, we have determined that this was unfair. GAE has been working on it, as I've said, and NEA for quite some years. Let me just give myself as an example. I had 25 years under Social Security because I worked for a system that did take it out, and then I worked for 2 systems that did not take it out. So the fact that I did pay into Social Security, I used to get, and I think they stopped it about 10 years ago maybe, but I used to get printouts of what I would get if I took my Social Security at 62 and at 65. Now you can get that online, but they used to send them out through the mail. But the fact of the matter was, they never really told you that if you didn't have the 35 years that they were going to count towards Social Security in, that if you were going to be jeopardized. Excuse me, didn't turn my cell phone off. Should do that, right? Okay, that you were going to be jeopardized. So I was able to, since I retired at 55, I was able to make some changes and work some jobs that did have Social Security until I began to take my Social Security out, which helped to benefit me. But a lot of people don't know that they are going to be jeopardized, because if you retired at 55 or some other time before you got to 62, you don't have as much time to do something about it. But let me tell you some things that we are doing. So next slide, please. NEA and GAE have been working for a number of years on trying to get the Congress to change and repeal the GPO and WEP. And there have been several opportunities to do this, and we've been participating very highly. All of your officers and the GAE retired have been participating in trying to get this repealed. The next slide. There have been bills that have been in support of doing this, called the Social Security Fairness Act, the Social Security 2100 Act, the Safeguarding America Families Expanding Social Security Act, the Public Servants Protection and Fairness Act. And all of these acts we have been trying to get done. And we also have had people that have helped us with it, because we tap into the other people who are affected, like firefighters, police officers, other people who work for a government such as the state, or that are getting a pension but are going to be affected if they have not paid into Social Security. There's a lot of information that is available through GAE, through the No Magazine, and also through the NEA website, that you can read up more about the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset. Next. GAE specialized in an article on the No Magazine, and that No Magazine came out and told about what efforts that we were making, but we're continuing to make them. It's very important when you're asked, you can help when you're asked to write your congressman if they have not signed on to the repeal of the GPO and the WEP, and hold them accountable. Next.
Cheryl, may I add, please, that thanks to Linda Wolf Smith, every member of the Georgia congressional delegation received a copy of this special issue of the magazine.
Great, great. Yes. Many people have been working very hard on that, and information comes out periodically. This was one of the No magazines that featured the efforts to repeal the GPO and the WEP. And each time we have a new Congress, we get the congressman to sign back up, and we have opportunities to go and testify. And I've been years ago, and others have been more recently. Your officers and others have been more recently to testify on how it is affecting people, and especially those people at the lower income that we have to protect, which is the bus drivers and the people who are serving in our schools that are not certified employees necessarily. Next. This is just more about the No Magazine and those people who had gone and testified on our behalf. Next. Next. Okay. This is just information that has come out, and you can get all of this at the NEA website. And be sure that when you're asked to make phone calls or to write letters or to email Congress, they will give you a toolkit where you can get your local involved in trying to email Congress and let them know that this is very much of a priority for educators. Next. Next. As I said, we don't just are not just relying on educators. These are also other occupations that have gotten together to try to repeal the GPO. And we continue to do this. Of course, it's very hard to get Congress to bring it up for a vote, but we're still working at it, and we're hopeful. And hopefully after this election on Tuesday, we'll still be able to work hard toward that if it turns out the way most educators want it to. Thank you. Next. There have been Social Security Fairness Acts, one in 2023 that people went up and testified, and yeah, Lisa did. And
hold on,
others
Cheryl,
did.
I need to tell y'all something about it.
Oh, great. Well, that's
Okay.
wonderful. Give us some report on something now. Go ahead.
Okay, this is the good news. The HR 82, which is the repeal of the GPO and WEP, in September, we worked and there was a discharge petition. The discharge petition needed 218, a majority of members of the House to sign. We got 218. It is bipartisan. That discharge petition means that before the end of the year, HR 82 will go to the floor for a vote. So what we need our members to do, yes, what we need our members to do is, when we know that it's going for the vote, and it will go on a Monday, it must be the second Monday or the fourth Monday. So it will go on a Monday. When we know it's going, we will send an email blast to all our members. We need them to send the email to the congressman immediately to vote yes. We have 60 sponsors in the Senate. So it is a filibuster proof sponsors in the Senate. So we are closer than we have ever been. It's going for a vote. So we just need people to be ready to send their stories, to write their congresspeople. And I can tell you that in Georgia, all of our Democratic members of Congress signed the discharge petition. Austin Scott, if you live in his area, had signed on as a co-sponsor. He did not sign the discharge petition, but one thing about the discharge petition was when it got number 218, if you were in line to be number 219 or 220 or 225, it was locked. So we don't know. We need to make sure he sponsored it. We need to make sure that he's going to be there to vote yes.
Oh, that's wonderful news, Lisa.
Yes.
And
so
yeah, we've been working on this for such a long time, and I do thank you for that update, because that's encouraging. Kate, next.
Honorable representatives.
Yes. Yes, that was I think there was a film there. Go back, Tony, to the one with the Capitol.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there was a
Honorable
film there.
representatives, please help. Retired public servants, including educators, law enforcement, firefighters, and foreign, municipal, state, and federal pensioners, respectfully submit a plea to you. We have suffered too long as our Social Security benefits have been diminished or denied for decades, so we call on our elected officials to right the wrong. Please eliminate the windfall elimination provision, WEP, and the government pension offset, GPO. Sadly, the WEP and GPO repeal effort has gone on for too long, and HR 82, the bill to repeal the offsets, has had a shaky history. The bill sat idly in committee for months through the inaction of the Subcommittee on Social Security. In response, a national grassroots volunteer movement took action to repeal the WEP and GPO by securing the 290 co-sponsor threshold to be placed on the consensus calendar. September 2022 was particularly troublesome for HR 82. Upon reaching 300 co-sponsors, the Ways and Means Committee moved.
Cheryl, I'm going to skip this because this is what happened the last time there was a discharge petition. Lisa's information is more up to date. So
Yes,
it's
I
not
appreciate that, and we're so
Yeah.
glad that it is. And they've been working very hard on it, including going to Days of Action, and also the Georgia delegation to the NEA was very much in the forefront of proposing that NEA step up its efforts to get this repealed. And so if it does get repealed, it will directly be due to the efforts that the Georgia Association of Educators put in and wrote a resolution to get this done when they were at the NEA. Thank you. That's all. I don't have specific answers to your questions. I do encourage you to get with the Social Security office and find out where you are in the process. If you have some Social Security in, and then you probably have time, even though you're near, most of these people I'm sure would be near retirement that are viewing this today, that you would have some time that you would be able to make a difference. I was able to make a difference in mine with a part-time job that I had, so that I wasn't jeopardized as much as I would have been, because I worked part of the time in Social Security counties and part of the time in non-Social Security. So I hope this has made a little bit of sense. It's a lot to absorb, especially after a niece with all her information that she gave you. But hopefully you can read back through it and get more information. And contact Tony if you if you need some more information. No, we'll all be able to help you in any way we can. Thank you.
You need to know that GAE Retired wrote and submitted a new business item 3 years ago to the NEARA that President Morgan presented from the GAE Board of Directors, that put together a lobbying cadre, NEA, to the tune of over $250,000 to send representatives from each affected state. There are 15 states impacted directly, but this is a national problem, to go and lobby specifically for the repeal of GPO-WEP. So we have really been at the forefront of this fight. Our next presenter is President Morgan, who will introduce us to the teachers' retirement system. Oh, I'm sorry. Are there any questions about GPO-WEP? Remember, we're just the messenger.
Tony, I would like to say something. The NAACP never had a resolution to repeal GPO-WEP. And because I am a member, I submitted it. It was passed this summer, so we have allies. So those of you who are members, encourage your members of the NAACP to call as soon as you get your information from GAE. All of our allies are needed for this to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. All right, President Morgan and the teachers' retirement system.
Okay, so I am filling in this morning. There we go. And so here's where I'm going. Okay, so TRS Georgia, our TRS is vital to the Georgia economy. And I'm not, because of time, I'm not going to show you this, but each year our TRS members benefits provide over $4 billion to our Georgia economy. And one of the things that you can go to the TRS website and you can see how much each county in Georgia, the economic value of members' benefits provide to the economy. And I do encourage you, if you have not done so already, go to TRS and log in to your TRS account. It's going to give you lots of information, and it is the best way to see your service. If you are considering retiring, go double check that, because we have people all the time who go and they think I have this many years, and then they go look and they don't realize that they didn't get credit for when they were on maternity leave or something like that. So please go to that account and check your retirement. And this is as of February 2024. TRS has 102.9 billion in assets. We have 246,566 actively contributing members and 148,904 retired members. And if you look, 133,479 benefit recipients March 1st. The average monthly benefit for someone retired from TRS is $3,605. The average years of service is 25.51. The average age at retirement is 60. And the average age of the current retirees is 72. And we got $517 million is the total benefit for this year. And 99% of TRS beneficiaries do receive it through direct deposit, which is amazing. This shows the rate of return. And one thing that I always caution our members about is, yes, we know there's going to be ups and downs and dips, but the important thing that we want to see through the year is we want they smooth out the rate of return through the year, because there's going to be dips and valleys anytime our money is invested, as it is by TRS. But the goal is a long-term goal, so that we see that over time it continues to increase. So I know I've had members before get very upset and say, well, I saw this thing in the paper that TRS lost this much last month. Okay, but look how much we were ahead the 2 months before, and it will come back up. So that's my caution for you. Don't get all worried when you hear there is a temporary decrease in the TRS investment portfolio. Okay, so one thing you need to know is very important: the difference between a defined benefit and a defined contribution plan. We have a defined benefit plan, and we want to keep that defined benefit plan for ourselves and the future education employees in Georgia. And I'm going to see if this will. Okay. Unfortunately, sorry. Oh, there we go. Let's see if I can make it big. Yeah.
It's not sharing, Lisa, and don't worry about this. It's just general information that you have already shared.
Okay, then I will. Okay, then I will go to the next. There we go. Okay, so a defined benefit plan, which is what we want. Your retirement income is guaranteed for life at a specific level. It will not decrease. If you have a defined contribution, the amount of your retirement income is not guaranteed. In a defined benefit, the employer, the plan itself invests the contributions. A defined contribution, the employee is responsible for investing the contributions. And you will often hear that say, we should go to defined contribution so you can be in control. My response to that is, I am an educator. I am an expert in teaching kindergartners how to read. I am not an expert in investing. With defined benefit, your retirement income, it's known. You know how much it's going to be, you can plan. Defined contribution, the income you are going to have after retirement is unknown. It can go up, it can go down. With the defined benefit, we are protected by inflation, and there are survivor benefits built in. Defined contribution, once again, the benefit can change, and survivor benefits are not built in. So we need to keep our defined benefit plan for education professionals because it's recruitment, it's retention, and you can retire with dignity. You do not have to worry that you are going to retire and 3 years later have no additional income and you must go back to work. Okay, so the TRS formula for service retirement, if you have 30 years of creditable service, no matter how old you are, you can retire with full retirement. Or if you have at least 10 years and you are at least age 60, you can retire with no penalty to what you have earned. The formula is your years of creditable service, including partial years, times 2%, that is the multiplier, times your highest average salary. And that is your maximum benefit. Your highest average salary is your highest 24 months. Does not have to be your last 24 months. It is your highest 24 months. Okay, so we're going to do an example. Someone is retiring after 30 years and they made the multiplier is 2%, that is set in law, does not change, and their highest average salary is $50,000. Then their benefit would be $30,000 per year or $2,500 per month. You have 40 years at 2% and an average salary of $60,000 is $48,000 per year or $4,000 per month. And 40 years, by the way, is the most credit you can earn. Unused sick leave. 20 days of unused sick leave is 1 month of service. So 9 months of sick leave credit is 1 year of service. And if you have sick leave, you can go, there is a chart on the TRS website that tells you how many days you have and how much credit you will receive for that. I actually looked that up for myself earlier this week. In 2020, there was legislation. If you were hired after July 1st, you cannot count your sick leave toward retirement. Cost of living adjustments. 1.5% cost of living adjustments are awarded every January and July. And this is something that we worked very, very hard to protect because these COLAs are automatic. And in most other states, most systems, the other systems in Georgia, COLAs are not automatic. Okay, how is our TRS funded? There are 2 buckets of funding. Bucket number 1, the smaller bucket, are our employee contributions. And then bucket number 2 are employer contributions and investment. And you can see bucket number 1 is the smallest bucket that you will have. Bucket number 2 is larger, and bucket number 3 is the bucket that is going to fund most of your retirement earnings. And I said that faster. Okay, so if this is an example, so a teacher retired at age 59 on June 1st. Okay. For their lifetime of work, they contributed $46,199. Their employer contributed $92,000, and that's about $50,000 from the state and about $42,000 from the local. Okay. And then the investments will make up $231,000 of the lifetime benefit payments received. So this person retired June 1st, and by December 1st of 2018, they had received $370,000 in retirement benefits. So you can see the contributions the employee made were gone really fast, and the employer contributions not long after that. And so the majority of our retirement comes from those investments. I didn't realize. Okay, so you can see these are the rates for the employee, and you can see the employee rate is capped at 6%, and that's what we have been paying since 2013. The employer rate has varied. In 2022, it was 19.81%. It has gone up this year, and it is going up again next year, and it will be back almost to 22%. Okay, so once again, HB 109, which would have removed the COLA, did not pass, but these are the changes they are trying to make to our teacher retirement. Okay, these are the groups, trying to be nice, that want to quote reform our pensions. And here are the changes that they make over and over and over again. They want to eliminate sick leave counting. They will want to reduce our multiplier. They will try to increase the minimum age to retire. They will try to decrease the earnings assumptions for the investments. They want to put in a salary cap for the calculation of benefits. They will try to change the highest average salary. Currently in our system, it is 2 years. They want to expand that to 5 years. You make it 5 years, of course, you're going to be adding in lower income. So our average salary would go down. Increase the employer and employee contribution rates. They will ask to change the actuarial methodology so it looks like our system is not sound. They will try to increase the vesting requirements. They will try to punish you for any work you do after retirement. Adding in post-retirement adjustment of benefits. We have in multiple times seen where they want to change the investments and change what we are allowed to invest in. And there have been proposals to go to a hybrid plan. So you have part defined benefit, part defined contribution. And if you talk to anyone who is in the state employee retirement system, that is what they did to their retirement system in 2009. And everyone that I know in that system agrees they would much prefer to go back to a fully defined benefit plan. And then they will also try to say that we need a defined contribution plan, because then They say you are in control of your own money. But like I said earlier, we're educators. We are not investment experts. And the other thing they will say is then you can take it with you. Well, if you leave before you are vested in TRS, you do get a return of your contributions that you can then invest on your own if you go somewhere else. Okay, so the way legislation works concerning retirement in Georgia, we have a biennium, which means we have a 2-year session. And so retirement legislation must be introduced in the first year, and it can only be acted on during the second year. So there was 2021 legislation, this did pass, which allows TRS to invest up to 5% in alternative investments. And TRS is nowhere near that 5%. House Bill 385 is back to work. It did pass in 2022. The caveat is you can only go back to work under House Bill 285 if you have 30 years of creditable service. If you have less than 30 years and you want to return to the classroom, you have to suspend your TRS benefits and go back in earning credit. And that is the end. And I think I did very good, Tony. I was trying to get us back on time where we are. If anyone has any questions, I will be happy to answer them. The number one thing I will say to everyone is when the Georgia legislature goes into session, we all know we have one of the best retirement systems in the country, and not just Georgia, but in the country. And we need to protect that retirement system, not only for those of us who are already retired, but those of us who all aspire to be retired. Every teacher I know aspires to be retired, but we need to protect our teacher retirement system for those who are coming after us as well.
Thank you so much for getting us back on schedule and for the excellent presentation, President Morgan. I saw one question in the chat that is going to be answered by our next presenter from the Teachers Retirement System. Mike Zarum is going to talk to us now more about the ins and outs of your participation in the Teachers Retirement System. So Mike, you are a co-host. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. I'm learning how to use this new system here. Are you seeing my slides?
We see your work presentation, and now we see your slides.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. We're going to look at the plan options, creditable service, which is your day-to-day work, unused sick leave, and service purchases. I'll also talk about beneficiaries. There's some overlap with things Lisa talked about. I'll try and save us all some time and not duplicate what she's already talked to you about. Clearly, being a teacher is very hard work, particularly given, COVID and all the aftermath. And you deserve a great benefit. And TRS really is, like Lisa was saying. I go across the state with a lot of financial advisors, certified financial planners, and they all pretty much say the same thing, that they personally wish they had TRS. So it's hard to get a better endorsement than that. Conceptually, it's important to understand that what you get from us has nothing to do with the ups and downs of the stock market. It's based on that formula Lisa showed you. You don't have to have any retirement anxiety about the stock market going up or down. We, on our end, we watch it, but regardless of what the market does, you get a benefit based on the formula that you looked at. And that's why you're seeing all these defined benefit plans disappear across the country, is there are very few employers that want to bear all that investment risk. Of course, hopefully you're all also in 403Bs or 457s where you are invested into the stock market. So it's hard to escape having some market risk in our retirement portfolio. But at least for our foundation, our major single source for most of you, you don't have to worry about it. It's also a benefit that can't run out no matter how long you live. We have over 10,000 retirees who are over 85. We have 4,000 who are over 90. And we have about 80 retirees over age 100 still collecting. Also, if you pick a plan that leaves benefits to a survivor, their benefit is also guaranteed for life after you, should you pass away first. Okay, there are a lot of different directions you can go. There's 7 plans to choose from. You also get cost of living adjustments, which is a real golden egg in your retirement nest. It's cost a lot to us to provide it, but it's incredibly valuable to you. And then you are also given the opportunity to pick what's called the partial lump sum option, and we'll go over that. So you have a lot of choices to make as you go through the selection process, and we'll touch on all of those. But one thing to keep in mind is that the financial experts say that as a general rule of thumb, if you want to maintain your standard of living in retirement, you need to replace 80% at a minimum, 80% of your pre-retirement income. So when you add TRS, you know, with 30 years, you're getting 60% under the max plan. You're going to need more than just TRS. Well, are you going to get Social Security? Many teachers don't because their counties didn't contribute. So then you'd have to rely on your 403B. Ideally, you would have the 3 legs of the retirement stool to have a good foundation for a secure retirement. That would be TRS, Social Security, and your 403B. Quite often it takes all 3 of those things to have enough. Okay, here's the formula that Lisa went over. What can I add? Well, in terms of deductions, you don't see any payroll taxes come out. There's no Social Security. There's no Medicare. There's some other little disability insurance deductions in there. That amounts to 7.5%, more or less. That's a huge component that does not come out of your TRS check. Plus, TRS doesn't come out of your TRS check, and that's 6%. So you're already over 13% savings. Plus, there's no 403B or 457 deduction coming out. Once you're age 62, living in Georgia and retired, there's a state tax exemption of $35,000 on retirement income. So that saves you around 5 to 6% on that first $35,000. Then once you turn 65, that exemption goes up to $65,000. So the vast majority of our teachers are not paying any state tax once they turn 65 and they're living in Georgia. Now, there is one deduction which I think you'd all like to have. If you're currently under the state health benefit plan, you can continue that coverage into retirement. And the premium will be deducted from your TRS check. And that's for life. Even after your Medicare age, you transition to a Medicare Advantage type plan, and that continues as a deduction. Now, there is no true open enrollment as a retiree, but concurrent with open enrollment, they have what's called a retiree option change period, where you can do just that. You can change your options. So like you could go to United Healthcare or Anthem, which is the old Blue Cross Blue Shield, and whatever other choices they have for that year. You get a concurrent with open enrollment, you can bounce around among the options. If you pull out, you can't get back in. And I don't know if it was mentioned earlier in your seminar today, but if you take one of those plans you see on TV being advertised, especially now because it's Medicare open enrollment, you know, Joe Namath, Jimmy J.J. Walker, if you join any of those, you are getting yourself canceled from our plan because you can't carry both of them. And then you can't get back in. So, and we've had, you know, hundreds and hundreds unknowingly join and get canceled. And they did not want that. Okay, let's see. Unfortunately, you cannot escape federal tax. That's going to continue to come out. All right. You can retire with 30 years of service regardless of your age, but you don't have to. Under the formula, you can go all the way up to 40 years and get 80% of your pay. But 30's magic in the sense that we don't look at your age. You could retire immediately at that point. Maybe you got into teaching later in life. Once you turn age 60 and you have at least 10, you could retire at that point. Obviously, the more years of service you have, the larger your benefit's going to be. And then if you become disabled and can't perform your job as determined by your medical providers and the TRS medical board, then you could get a retirement based on your years of service with no penalty based on age, and you would start collecting immediately. Now, if you want to get out early, you can with a penalty for those of you who have at least 25 years but less than 30, and you're under age 60. So basically, for every year you're under age 60, or for every year you're under 30 years of service, there's a 7% reduction from whatever your normal benefit would have been. You know, so in a worst case scenario, you could be, and we apply the penalty which yields you the largest benefit. So you might be 25 years and age 59. Well, we'd only apply a 7% reduction from your normal benefit because you're only 1 year away from being age 60. But let's say you're 55 with 25 years of service. Well, that's a 5-year penalty regardless of age or length of service. So you're looking at a 35% reduction from whatever your normal benefit would have been. So it can be a severe penalty, but it's there for you if you happen to need it. Also, if you take an early retirement, you can't get a COLA until you would have achieved a normal retirement, either by age or length of service. So here are the plans you have to choose from. We're going to go over each one in more depth. But the first step, I think, in trying to decide which is the best one for you is to divide your options into 2 groups. On the left is Plan A Maximum and Plan B Option 1. Those plans maximize what you're going to get per month. But when you pass away, there are no monthly benefits going to survivors. And that may work great for you. Maybe there's no one who depends on you financially. There would be no hardship. So why not take the maximum plan and enjoy the fruits of your long, hard career? You know, a lot of teachers are generous people and they like to leave children some benefit, but actuarially they're very expensive. And frankly, they may not even need the money because they're gainfully employed. So, make sure you take care of yourself first. And then for those of you who want to or have the need to leave money to survivors should you pass away first, we have options 2 through 4 that all leave a varying amount of money to one or more survivors. Basically, I think we have a concept slide which we'll look at momentarily. In your account, your TRS account, it's useful to visualize 2 buckets of money. There's your bucket of money, which we'll call your it's also called your contribution and interest account because it's got all the money that came out of your check plus the 4.5% interest we pay you on your money. That's your bucket. The other bucket I'll call the TRS bucket, and that's where all the investment income goes, employer contributions go, in order to pay you a lifetime benefit when your bucket of money runs out. Your very first checks are all paid out of your bucket of money. It lasts 2 to 3 years for typical teachers. And when that runs out, you and any covered survivors get your lifetime benefit from the TRS bucket of money. So this is a useful concept to understand as we talk about how the options work, and also when we talk about beneficiaries. We never keep any of the money that went into your bucket. It either goes back to you as a benefit or to covered survivors. So about 66% or so of our retirees take the maximum plan. That's the formula we looked at, and you saw that Lisa showed you. 2 out of 3 teachers take that plan. That doesn't make it right necessarily for you, but I'm often asked, what do teachers select? Now, if you take Plan A maximum and pass away before the 2 and 3 or 3 years are up, there'll be money left in your bucket, which is paid in a lump sum to your designated beneficiary. Once your bucket of money is used up and you're in the maximum plan or option 1, there's no money going to any beneficiary. Money's all used up. But while you were living, you were getting the most you could from TRS. Now, there is a slight twist to the maximum plan. It's option 1, where we extend the life of your bucket of money from that 2 to 3 years to about 10 to 14 years, which means that if you were to pass away anytime prior to the 10 to 14 years, there'd still be money left in your bucket that would go in a lump sum to your designated beneficiary. So it's a little added protection for your beneficiary. But again, remember, it is not a lifetime monthly benefit. And you do take a slight reduction in your monthly benefit to offer it. Now, one thing I'd like to point out is a health plan rule. If you're in the maximum and you're in the state health benefit plan and you're covering a spouse, if, say, that spouse passes away and you remarry, you can cover that new spouse. But let's say you pass away as the member first and you've got a surviving spouse out there who remarries, then that spouse would lose coverage upon the remarriage. So that may be something you want to let your spouse know. But there is a workaround for that, because you could pick a plan that leaves a small monthly benefit so that a surviving spouse could remarry without fear of losing that coverage. Okay, let's now go to options 2 through 4, which operates sort of like a ride on a seesaw or teeter-totter, in that the more you take for yourself, the less is available for others. The more you leave to other people, the less is available for you. So it's this kind of up and down dynamic. You just decide where on this ride you want to get off. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just what works best for you and your family. You know, you can tailor, as you'll see, your selection to what your family needs are. All these plans have what's called actuarial equivalence, which means that the expected lifetime payout based on actuarial factors is the same, regardless of the plan you select, from a plan-wide overview perspective. So the most you can leave to a covered survivor would be under option 2, where they would get the same amount you were receiving at the time you pass away, but it's more expensive. It's going to reduce your maximum benefit, I'd say anywhere from 15 to 30%, but it varies. So, you know, you'll know your reduction based on your selected beneficiary once you get a benefit estimate from us, if you haven't already. So let's say you pass away having taken option 2 at retirement, and you were getting $4,000 a month from us, then your beneficiary would get that same $4,000 a month, and then also get COLAs from that point forward, just like the both of you enjoyed while you were both living. We also have option 3 that allows you to leave half of your monthly benefit to a survivor. So in our example of 4,000, if you took option 3 at retirement, that survivor would get $2,000 a month, and then COLAs thereafter. Now, there is a twist that's available for both options 2 and 3, and that would be to take options 2 or 3 pop-up. You can only have one beneficiary under these pop-ups, but if that beneficiary dies first, your benefit pops up, like the name implies, to the maximum plan of benefits. The normal pop-up I see is something like maybe $300 or $400 more a month. So it's you know, when someone passes away, usually you don't need more money, you need less. You could, however, have situations where maybe you were depending upon, say, a spouse's income, and you wanted to replace some of that if that person passed away during your retirement. You could do that under the pop-up. Pop-ups being added to option 2 or 3 are relatively speaking not that expensive. It might be less than $100 a month to add the pop-up, but you would see that once you got an estimate from us. And then last but not least, we have option 4, where within certain plan and IRS limits, you can designate either a fixed dollar amount, which would grow with COLAs, or a percentage amount. So you could leave, for example, 1/3 or $1,000 a month. So you can really tailor exactly how much you're going to get and how much a beneficiary would get. So here's a situation where you might want to leave, say, under option 4, say $400 a month, something like that, to your spouse, so that if you die first and the spouse remarries, that spouse keeps the coverage, the health plan coverage. So just, and it doesn't cost a whole lot to have a small monthly benefit going to someone under option 4. Okay. So now you are all deemed experts on TRS options. So we're going to have an exam. Normally this would be interactive, but virtually I'm going to read the questions, give you a second to think about it, and we'll go over what a reasonable answer might be. And we take the time to do this because it's, I think, a useful decision-making process that you could employ when trying to decide what's best for you. So in scenario 1, we have Mary. She's got no dependents and no one depends on her income. So if you were Mary, what option might you reasonably select? Well, the thought here is that Mary would take the maximum plan. No one's going to have financial hardship should Mary pass away first. So why not take as much as you can get? On the other hand, in scenario 2, we have Sue, who has a spouse, but the spouse doesn't have any savings, won't be getting a pension or Social Security. And despite all his efforts, he has yet to win the lotto. And we have to assume, for the sake of discussion, that Sue loves her spouse. I know that may be a stretch, but for this example, we're going to assume that. So if you were loving Sue, what option might you select? And the thought here is that Sue, wanting to protect her spouse with financial means, because otherwise she'd have none, she's going to take option 2 so that the spouse will get the same amount Sue was. Sue might also take option 2 pop-up because, you know, typically the women live longer than their male spouses. And then option 3, we've got Tom also has a spouse, but that spouse will be getting a pension and Social Security. But when they run the numbers, the spouse is still $500 a month short of meeting her needs if Tom would die first and the pension from TRS would stop. So if you were Tom, what option might you select? Well, the thought here is that we want to maximize what they're getting while they're living together, but also provide that safety net for the spouse should Tom pass first. So you could do that by taking option 4 and designating $500 a month, so that when, assuming Tom dies first, that $500 a month is coming to her through TRS. So there you have it in a quick nutshell, you know, a decision process you might want to use. But there's still another decision to make among others, and that's whether you do or don't want one of these partial lump sum option plans where you can leave or receive a lump sum distribution of cash via a check that would arrive, you know, shortly after retirement. And you could either take the money or don't even touch it and have some or all of it go into another qualified retirement plan, like a IRA or your 403B, I'm sure would take it. And you could defer any taxes on the portion that you put into that qualified retirement plan. If you took any of the money to spend, why there would be taxes and potentially a 10% penalty if you're not yet 59 and a half. Let's see what else. You can get up to 36 months of your benefit, of your max benefit under a plop in what is it, $1,000 increments. Let's see. I think that about 1 in 10 of our members takes a plop distribution, and the average gross amount is about $65,000. That's just on average. You may want to talk to your licensed financial advisor about whether taking one of these makes sense for you. You know, maybe it might make sense to pay off some high interest credit card debt at retirement if you have any. Some people use a PLOP as a kind of a quasi form of life insurance. You may need seed money to start a new business. You could buy a depreciable asset, but you got to remember that you're going to have a reduced lifetime benefit, and you are not going to get a COLA, you know, on the reduced amount. You're missing out some COLA increase dollars as well. It is a rather material reduction in your monthly benefit. And to see what the reduction would be, it'll show up on your benefit estimate. I would say for most teachers, I see anywhere from a $7 to $10 reduction per $1,000 PLOP that they take. I talked about COLAs earlier. They're truly the goose that laid the golden egg. As long as we have CPI inflation, our board shall award a 1.5% COLA every January and July. So it's twice a year, it compounds on itself. And after about 12 to 13 years of consecutive COLAs, you're making 50% more than when you started. So quite often I have retirees come to me very excited saying, hey, Mike, you know, I'm finally, I'm making more now in retirement than I did while I was working. And those folks are in that scenario because of the increases in their TRS from these COLAs. Your very first one comes 7 to 12 months post-retirement. For most of you, it'll be given if you're a classroom teacher, your last day of work is typically in June. So you'd be a July 1 effective retiree, and you would get your first COLA the following January. So you just have a 7-month wait. But let's say you had a snow day to make up and you had to work a day in July, then you'd be a August retiree, August 1, and you'd have to wait basically a full year to get your first COLA. Okay, we're going to go through a benefit estimate example. This member had 30 years times 2%. This is the formula. So they're going to get 60% of a high average salary of $58.33, or conveniently, it comes out to exactly $3,500 a month. So here's the top half of what an estimate looks like, minus the graphics there. But it'll give you the scenario that you've set up, which you've given to us, or that you put in yourself with the Generate Benefit Estimate tool. If you're within 5 years, you can use that tool, and you can crank out as many estimates as you want. But here we've got the member retiring June 1 with 30 years, and he's projecting a 1.333 years of unused sick leave credit. So we put in all the assumptions at the top half of the estimate. You can see the computer pulled out the high rolling average of 24 months of pay. It shows you the minimum and maximum PLOP you can take. If you want to assume any kind of pay increases, you can plug them in. Or if you want a more conservative estimate, you can leave it at 0. The computer will input your current service and your anticipated additional service to the point of your projected retirement. That's your anticipated membership. You have to put in your best guess on sick leave. We don't know what it is. And this may be a good time to talk about sick leave forms. You have to initiate the process of getting a final sick leave form to all your prior employers, not your last one, but all the prior ones, if there are any. And it's a signable PDF file. You could also do the paper old-fashioned route, but you can fill out your portion, email it to the benefit coordinator at the other systems. The school system will fill out their part, and then it gets emailed or mailed back to us, and we can keep it in your file until you retire, so you don't have to mess with it while you're trying to do everything else. Your very last employer we can capture by you simply indicating you want the sick leave credit from them, and you do that online during the retirement application process. All right. Anticipated other service would be a service purchase that you have not yet made but are contemplating. And we'll talk about service purchases in a few minutes. So let's go to the bottom half of the estimate. This is the fun part because it shows you how much you would get and your beneficiary would get under the different options. You see that under the max plan, that's the most you can get per month. Option 1 reduces it about $10 a month. Option 2 reduces it, $230 or so. To take a pop-up reduces it by about, from the normal option, it's about $23 a month. What would happen is if the member took Plan B option 2 pop-up and the primary beneficiary dies first, then the member's benefit would pop up the dollar difference between the $3,250 and the $3,500. Okay. The middle row shows you how much a plop would cost per $1,000. In this case, they're all $6 and some odd cents. And you can see what the beneficiary would get should the member dies first under the primary beneficiary row. Remember, under max plan and option 1, there is no monthly benefit, but under option 2, it's the same amount that the member was getting at the time of death. Under option 2 pop-up, if the member dies first, they continue to get, whatever the member was receiving. Under option 3, they get 1/2 of their monthly amount. Now, often we'll give you a courtesy amount under option 4, just so you can see what the impact is. So for a $500 a month benefit, it only reduced the monthly benefit by about $35. Now, if you want an option 4 estimate, you just tell us ahead of time and we'll crank that out for you. We do recommend you get one of these when you're 2 years out. We have a nice document, informative document. It's called a 24-month checklist, and it's under the publications tab on our website, which is www.trsga.com. And you can crank out estimates on your own. You can request an appointment. Online, we can do them virtually if you want, or you can do them in person. You can even do it over the phone if you want. I know you may be scattered logistically or geographically. We do have an in-person office in Macon, and we also have one in Atlanta, just north of the Georgia Tech campus. And you can set up in-person appointments at either location. You can get these things up to 5 years early, but we do recommend you get an official estimate 2 years out. That way, they're fairly accurate because you are close. There's less likely to be changes, and you still have enough time if something doesn't look right to get it fixed. So if you're within 2 years, it's a good time to start wondering what option is best for you. Let's see, I think we covered those other points already. Let's go into creditable service. Remember, this is a big part of the formula. The more of this stuff you have, the larger your benefit's going to be. Your day-to-day membership is included in this. Unused sick leave and time that you can buy, which we call purchased service. So let's look at each one of those three in more detail. Membership service is awarded in 1 month increments. If you work half the month or more, your employer lets us know to give you credit for that month. All right. Our clock for earning a year is our fiscal year, which starts July 1 and goes through the end of June. And 1 year of TRS service is just 9 months. If you're academic faculty with Board of Regents teaching semesters, you have an 8-month year. But I think I'm talking to all K through 12, if I'm not mistaken. So anytime you reach 9 months, from July 1 through the end of June, you have your year with TRS. You can't get more than a year in a fiscal year. You just stop accruing once you hit your 9 months. You might say, well, that's not fair. I'm working more than the 9 months. Well, this is the way the law was written. So if you're a 10-month contract, you're going to get up to 12.5 days per year. If you're a 12-month contract, you can get 15 days a year based on a maximum accrual rate under the law of 1.25 days of sick per month of actual service. So for those of you who do work more than the 9 months, you know, especially if you're like a 12-month person, if you don't use your sick, you're going to earn more service credit than someone who was a 10-month contract who didn't use their sick days. So, you know, in a backdoor kind of way, working longer during the year can get you extra money through unused sick leave credit. You don't get it with your first check. It's a retroactive award that comes, oh, I don't know, by your second check typically. And we do make you whole again for any sick leave you missed on that first or second check. We do it that way because you might get sick just before you retire, and we'd have to redo your entire calculation for retirement benefits. So to avoid that administrative inefficiency, we calculate an award sick leave right after you've retired. And then you'll be whole again once the sick leave is added in. It doesn't happen so much these days as it did, 30 years ago. But if records are missing, we can calculate an average number of unused days based on the records that do exist. And we take those estimated days, add them to the recorded days, and get you a total. That's the best thing we can do if, somehow records were missing, say in a flood or a fire or whatever, or, maybe computer records got lost. Here's a chart for unused sick leave. Don't feel like you got to write this down. It's in the members guide and, online. Hopefully you can see this. I'm holding it by my face here. It's the TRS members guide. You can also download this on our website. Page 26 or 27 has an expanded version of the sick leave chart. It's page 26, I think. And you can look up your sick leave credit. So you need a minimum of 60 days to get 3 months, and that's 1/3 of a year, because remember, we have a 9-month year. So we're going to add 0.333 years of service to your total. Let's say you had 170 to 189 days. That would be 9 months or 1.0 years. So if that was you, you could work 29 years and retire with 30 because sick leave would get you up to 30. Or conversely, you could work 30 years and get a 31-year benefit with sick leave added to the top. So, because remember, you can go all the way up to 40 years and get 80%. There is no cap on unused sick leave. I think mathematically, you know, once you've worked 37 years and never took a day off, you'd have 3 years of unused sick if you were a 12-month person, and you've capped out at 40 years at that point. The sick leave can't take you over 40. All right. If any of you in the audience are academic faculty with USG, you also have a 9-month year based on sick leave. You've got to do the 170 to 189 to get 1 year of sick. Just the way the law was written. Service purchases. Certain work covered under the law that you've done in the past can be purchased and converted to TRS creditable service, basically prior teaching service. Some of you may already have a cost calculation on this. I can tell you that a number of these things are cost benefit favorable to you. Some may not be. You know, to try and assess whether you should do it, I think one good way to approach it is a cost and benefit methodology, where you look at the cost and then you see how many years it would take you to break even on the additional, getting the additional benefit, and how old will you be when you project to break even. And then you can decide if it makes sense or not. You may want to ask your licensed financial advisor. A good place to go for this sort of thing is if you're in a 403B through your school system, ask your rep, your financial advisor through them to run some numbers for you and help you make your decision. You never have to buy any of this. It just takes your time and energy to fill out the paperwork and do any follow-ups. Oh, and I'm not going to give you an explanation in depth on all of the various forms, but they are listed in detail in your members guide. But probably the most common one would be TRS withdrawn, where you worked for a while and you quit, and when you quit, you withdrew your bucket of money, your contributions and interest. Then down the road, you come back to TRS covered service. After you've been back a minimum of 3 years, the law lets you buy back the time you cashed out on. And these have a very good or favorable cost benefit analyses. So if you have any of that, seriously consider buying that time. It may only take 3 years or so to get your money back, and then for the rest of your life, you'll enjoy that higher benefit. Another common one is out-of-state service. If you taught at an out-of-state school, you can buy up to 10 years from that out-of-state system. You do have to give up any kind of money you have with them or a vested pension. So it may be better to, in various scenarios, just to get a check from the 2 different states. But you might just have 1 or 2 years, say in Indiana, for example. You're not going to get a pension from them, so why not convert it to Georgia time and have it generate additional lifetime income for you? There are some others like airtime, where you just want to get out earlier. In conjunction with a retirement, you can buy up to 3 years and just get out sooner. So maybe you have 27 years, you could buy 3 years of airtime and get out. Now, if it were that simple, don't you think everyone would do it? It probably would, but the catch is it's very, very expensive. Now, we don't calculate the price this way, but if you want a ballpark notion of the cost for airtime, 1 year of airtime is in the neighborhood of 1 year of your TRS benefit. So if you're going to get 40 grand a year from us to start, and a year of airtime would be around $40,000. So, you know, we don't see many of those purchases, but they are out there. And one thing I should mention too, in terms of making the purchase, you can use direct rollovers from your 403B. You don't touch the money, but you send your custodian of funds, whether it's, you know, Corebridge, Fidelity, Horace Mann, whoever your system uses, they're the custodian. You'll give them a letter that you can download from our website. It's called a direct rollover form, and it'll instruct them to roll the money straight over to us towards the service purchase. That may be the most efficient way to do it. If you were in the military active duty, you could buy up to 5 years of military time, and that's typically cost effective too. Just send us your DD 214 paperwork. If you were a state employee here in Georgia, you can move ERS time over to TRS time. If you taught at a private school in Georgia, you can buy that time, but it's very expensive. It had to have been accredited, but it's also available as a service purchase. Okay. So if you do buy, you could retire earlier because it counts just like you were working in your normal job. Some people buy time to avoid a penalty. The longer you wait, the more it's going to cost. Right now, it's going up 7.5% a year. So it may behoove you to buy sooner than later if you are eligible to buy anything. So what can you do now? Well, get sick leave forms. Remember, you can do it electronically to your former employers, not your last one. If you have a current cost calculation, you may want to get an updated one because remember, every year that goes by, it costs more. And you can't buy service after you retire. It's got to be done prior to your effective retirement date. And some kinds of service purchases may take a long time to execute, particularly out of state. You know, I've seen that take over 2 years because the out-of-state system wasn't very cooperative. So don't wait to the last second to do any of this, because I've seen people having to delay their retirement to execute a service purchase prior to retirement. We are continuously making it easier and more efficient to interact with TRS. There's now a download and upload documents tool that's on our website. You know, if you need to send us, you know, signed forms, or download anything that we might have put in your mailbox, for example. So be aware of that. Our last topic before, you know, we open up the chat box for questions would be the beneficiary issues. There's two kinds, primary and secondary. What happens if you die while you are considered an active TRS member? We'll touch on death and divorce. So primaries are the ones who get the monthly benefits. Secondaries don't, with one rare exception. So if you want multiple people to get a monthly benefit, you got to list them all as primaries. Secondaries, you should definitely designate at least one, and their purpose would be to receive a lump sum distribution of any money that might be left in your bucket when both you and the primary beneficiary are deceased. Because remember, we never keep any of the money in your bucket. So it would go in this scenario to your secondary. All right. So it's important you Designate at least one of each and that they're not the same person. If you die in active service, that means while you're actively working or within 4 years of having terminated TRS covered employment. If you're not vested, you have less than 10 years and you die in active service, we will distribute your bucket of money to your designated primary, but you have some nice protection if you are vested. If you die in active service, the primary could either take option 2 or the money in your bucket. Now, there could be a scenario where there is no surviving primary, like in a car accident. Let's say, you're an actively working teacher, you're in a car wreck with your spouse, and you both pass away. Then in that rare scenario, we would go to whomever you designated as secondary, and they become the primary, and they could get a lifetime monthly benefit. But that's the only time it would work that way. Once you've retired, that feature no longer applies. So the bottom line with changing your option or changing beneficiaries is that your opportunities to do so are very limited. Basically, with death and divorce are the only times that you could possibly be entitled to make certain changes. So if you have options 2 through 4 and have only one primary and that beneficiary dies before you, you can change beneficiary or plan, but you can't go to the maximum unless you already had the pop-up. If you divorce, you can change plan or beneficiary, including a change to the maximum. If you do select a new beneficiary, we do recalculate your benefit, and it may very well go down. So you may not want to have a beneficiary, may just want to go without one. So you may want to get a benefit estimate from us before you make any related changes, and then you can decide if you want to designate a new one or not. If you took options 2 through 4 and you have multiple beneficiaries, the law is even more strict. If any of the beneficiaries dies, like let's say you had 3 kids, one of them passes away before you, you can't change anything, and we don't adjust what's going to the remaining children or beneficiaries. This is just the way the law is written. However, if there is a divorce, you can remove the divorced spouse, and you could reallocate that benefit to the remaining beneficiaries. And again, we do recalculate your benefit. We have to pay the beneficiaries you've listed on our forms. Things like wills, divorce, decrees, remarriages have no bearing on who we pay. TRS bypasses probate law. We're dealing here with contract law between you and us. We have to go with what is in our records. So, for example, if you get divorced and remarry and want the new spouse on as your beneficiary, don't forget to do the update, because if you pass away and you have an old spouse listed on our form, we legally have to pay the divorced spouse. And that happens 2 or 3 times every single year. So don't let that be you. Keep your beneficiaries up to date. If you want to designate a minor child, that's fine. We would just pay that minor child through the court-appointed guardian until the child becomes an adult. If you retire and die within 30 days, we default you to option 2, which would benefit, obviously, a beneficiary, particularly because most people take the maximum plan and there'd be no monthly benefit at all. It's also important not to designate the estate if you want to leave a monthly benefit to someone. We can't leave a monthly benefit to the estate of a certain person. It's just got to be the named individual. You can have multiple beneficiaries and divide it up any way you want to, as long as it adds up to 100%. Okay. Let's see. You can scan that QR code if you want. You can learn more about beneficiaries by doing so. We can't give you specific advice. We're not licensed and insured to do that for you. We can talk in general terms like I have today. If you do want specific advice, go to your 403B advisor. I imagine that would be free. Obviously, there are a lot of different places you could go. There's NAPFA.org. That's fee-only advisors. There's CFP.net for certified financial planners. Also, your very first deposit is going to be electronic. So you're going to give us banking information. It'll come around the middle of the month in which you retire. Subsequent checks come the first business day of the month for that month. So next step is to get excited because you are almost there. Congratulations. So I will stop sharing my show. And if you want to read the chat questions, pick the ones you want me to take, and then you can end it when you want to.
Okay. I'll go from the last question to the first question. If you purchase service time for service credit, are there penalties? What are the pros and cons of purchase airtime for service credit? I know you covered that. You might want to repeat it.
Well, airtime is very expensive. There's no, she was asking about penalties, like an early retirement penalty.
Yeah, that's what it says. Sheila, you might want to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Well, you can avoid an early retirement penalty by buying airtime if you would otherwise not have a normal retirement. You know, but it's going to cost you in the neighborhood of 1 to 3 years of your TRS benefit. So that's the disadvantage. The advantages would be that you're out sooner, you're retired, and you're doing the things you wanted to do in retirement. So also any of the money that you use to buy it is locked up in TRS, and you don't have that liquidity to use that money to do other things. So those are the pluses and minuses of buying airtime.
Okay, another question is about rolling over 403B. I know you did address that.
Yeah.
This is kind of a specific question, so I don't think you can answer it, but I'll go ahead and read it. Is it worth it to roll over 403B to retire early, thus only having TRS and no 403B?
Well, certainly using 403B money to buy, you can't just give us money, all right? Number one, you can't roll over money to TRS. You got to be eligible to buy something in order to send us any kind of money. And using 403B money to buy service is a very effective way to make the purchase, because you're moving money from a riskier investment to a guaranteed lifetime annuity with cost of living adjustments. And you're basically moving money from one kind of retirement account into another. And it's not an immediately taxable event. It's deferred taxes until you start getting the money distributed in retirement. So, you know, that's an advantage. But like I mentioned earlier, you do lose the liquidity of the money that you use from your 403B. So I don't know that it's a smart idea to totally wipe out a 403B to buy time, because you might have plans for that money in retirement. You know, if let's say you had $100,000 in that 403B. Maybe you want that money as an emergency savings fund. So when you have to fix the roof, you have money there and you don't need a loan or go onto a credit card. You just use the 403B money as your emergency savings fund. So you'd be giving that up if you sent all the money over to TRS. So it may not be, generally speaking, the best thing to do. There are other ways to pay for service. You could save money, extra money into your 403B, pre-tax, and then, you know, not need all of the 403B money to buy the time. So there you go, the pluses and the minuses.
Okay, where do we find the amount of creditable sick time accrued?
You find that out by asking your former employers. And, you know, they may tell it to you over the phone. But we don't have any record of what it is. You know, that only gets reported to us when we get those forms. So you inquire with the benefit coordinator in the central office of the system you worked at, and you say, hey, you know, I'm trying to retire, or I'm trying to get a benefit estimate. Can you tell me how much sick leave I earned while working at your system? And, you know, those benefit coordinators, they know how this process works, and they probably get requests all the time for unused sick leave, but you've got to take the ball and run with it for each system you worked at, including, you know, well, your last one, you probably do the same thing, call your benefits coordinator and ask, and then you can add it all up and get a general idea of how much you have. Now, I will say one thing, the way we calculate unused sick leave with time transfers from one county to another, we back transfers to the original place where you earned it. So if, let's say 45 days went from county A to county B, when we add it up and when it's reported to us by the employers, they know not to report to us any time that got transferred in from another system. That time is reported to us by the system where you earned it. So it doesn't get double counted. But that's, I'm usually asked, what about my transfer time? Well, transfer time in goes back to where it was earned, and that system reports that time to us.
Okay, question that I don't fully understand. So Alexis might want to unmute and ask this question. Where on the TRS site is the form to request hours from previous employers?
Go to the TRS website, www.trsga.com, and go to the Forms tab. And under the Forms tab are all the forms in one place. And you just look for what's called the Final Sick Leave Certification Form. Final Sick Leave Certification Form. And you're going to fill out a part, and it's a signable PDF. You can fill it out electronically, your section. Then you can email it as an attachment to the benefit coordinator at the system. You'll have to find out, you know, the address. And then they fill out their part of it electronically and they email it back to TRS. Quite often they'll send you a courtesy copy, but then we'll have it on file. If you didn't get a courtesy copy, you could call us and we could, you know, send you the document electronically.
Okay, last two questions. Do years outside of Georgia count toward the 10 years needed to be vested?
Only if they're bought. So if you do a service purchase of those years, assuming they're eligible, then yeah, you could use out of state time to vest and get your 10 years. But it, you know, quite often what happens is, you know, you might come here with you might start with a higher salary, right? a higher step level because you had a couple years in another state. The higher salary will help you with the formula, but you don't get credit, the years of service credit, because you worked in another state. In order to get the actual years of service, you have to buy them. And once they're bought, yeah, they can count towards your first 10. And they obviously, you know, count towards your 30 or 30 plus as well.
Okay, last question. DD 214 military time. Please provide an example of how it works.
Get a photocopy of your separation paperwork and write us a note saying that you wish to buy your years of active duty military time. And then we will calculate that based on your years of service with the military and send you back a letter saying how much each of those years would cost. And then you can buy them in 1 year increments. You could buy them all at once. You can't buy partial years unless you actually have a partial year of military time available for purchase. Basically, we're going to pretend, let's say you did your military service before you started teaching. We'll use your first year of teacher salary to determine what the cost is going to be. But what can get some teachers is, like, if their military time was, you know, many decades ago, we have to charge interest from the time that you served in the military to the time that you're buying it. So that interest could add up if we're talking like the Vietnam War or something like that. But that's the essence of how it works. So get that DD 214 with the letter to us, and we'll initiate the process.
Okay, that is all the questions we have to take time to take today. Mike, you've been a font of information. You always are. Thanks. You for supporting GAE Retired. And our last presenter of the day is our first presenter of the day, our president, Patrick Crabtree. Patrick is going to talk to you about several things, including membership, and I'm going to put a link to the membership enrollment form in the chat. Patrick, it's all yours.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you all for being in attendance. This is valuable information. I know, I am affected by the windfall elimination penalty. I get cut $200 a month. It affects a lot of our people that live on borders that decide where they took out Social Security and they don't take out Social Security when they come to Georgia, and it really affects them. So they really need this valuable information. So thank you for all that. Membership. We are trying to build our membership with retirees because the more members we have, the more power we have in the legislature. And our role is extremely important because we can go to the Capitol, we can make phone calls when the active teachers are teaching. So I would encourage anybody that's ready to retire to go ahead and join now, pre-retired. In fact, if you are within the next couple of years, join pre-retired, because you can take out a bank draft for the months of the year left, and you can pay your membership, and you will all automatically be brought into the GAE full retire without having to go through any additional paperwork. You will become a retired member. If you know anybody that's a member of GREA thinking they joined GAE-R, tell them, no, you're not a member of that. You need to join GAE-R. I think that's very important. I am working to try to engage our membership. I want to have us a very robust, active retiree group. We have staved off a lot of bad bills that would have affected our retirement. And this is just the reason to be a member, because, you know, it's going to protect you too. So with that being said, Tony, I don't see your form. Did you put it in the chat?
I put them in the chat. The lifetime membership for people who are already retired and the pre-retired membership form for people who are still active but want to get in on being a pre-retired member before the cost goes up. And I'll put them in again, but the pre-retired.
Also, Tony, I know that we have a category where you can join by the year. Do we have a form for that one?
We do, and I will put that in the chat. The pre-retired membership form is still loading. So I will drop those in the chat. Are there any questions for Patrick while I get those into the chat?
While we're waiting, I know we have some upcoming events. Next Wednesday, we have our lunch bunch. And Karen, is she on still?
No, she's not.
Okay. Do we have any information about our upcoming event?
I do. The upcoming meeting, which will be Wednesday of next week, will be all about identifying the warning signs of Alzheimer's. So please join us. And right now in the chat, the lifetime form, the annual form are in the chat, and the pre-retired form are in the chat. I have green checks for all of them, so they are all loaded. So we will give you a minute to open those before we end the meeting so that you can download them and go ahead and join. Annual membership for a certified employee is $450 a year. $450 a lifetime. You pay that one-time fee, and you are a member of GAE and NEA Retired for Life. And if you join now, you can divide that payment up by 10 months, which means that you would pay $45 a month until the end of August. And then you never have to pay another dime. You are a member forever and get to keep your member benefits, including your insurance benefits, your financial benefits, your travel benefits, your shopping benefits after retirement. As a lifetime member, you get to run to be a delegate to the Representative Assembly, both the state and the National Representative Assembly, and you can be elected to be a delegate to those assemblies. And so the benefits of membership in GAE and NEA Retired is they are great. Also, if you are a non-certified employee, a support professional, the lifetime dues are $270 a year. So that would be $27 a month until the end of August. And annual membership cannot be divided monthly. That's $60 a year. You can pay that with a check or credit card. You cannot have your dues, pre-retirement dues deducted from your payroll because your active dues are coming from that, but you can have it come out of your checking account or from a credit card.
Tony, I have a quick question.
Yes.
If someone is already retired and wants to become a lifetime member, can they do the 10 months or
Yes. Yes.
They start at that point? Would they be automatically be a member?
As soon as we get your application and process it, you are a member.
Okay. See, that's something good to know that you, also, we want you to know that you do not necessarily have to have worked in Georgia to become a member of GAE Retired. If you know someone that retired and was a member somewhere else, especially if they're with the NEA and they moved to Georgia and want to get active, encourage them to join us too, because they can become members according to our Constitution, our bylaws. So
And
everybody, yes,
And if they were a member of that other organization whose name we will not speak, they can still join GAE Retired.
right. And there's a benefit because we are the ones that are on the front line. We are the ones speaking up for you. Like Lisa was saying with that windfall elimination penalty thing, and Tony said, Cheryl said, we have been working on this for years and years, and that is something that I'm hoping to see happen. Well, I could use 200 more a month. Also, I want to tell you something. If you sell property once you're retired, be careful because it will count as your income and your Medicare will go sky high. Because I sold a house and my Medicare went up $235 a month for single. And so after this year, it should go back down. But I just want everybody to be aware of that also. Are there any other questions for me?
All right. Thank you so much for attending. Let your friends know the next seminar will be January 25th. Come back because you'll probably have questions. The application is not a fillable PDF. You will have to print it and fill it out. However, if you wish, you can fill it out and then take a photograph of it and email it to me. I'm the membership chair and vice president. I'm putting my email address in the chat.
Before we close out, I want to give a special shout out to Tony and to Karen because this, like I said at the beginning, this is their love child and something I wanted to continue because this is valuable information that we all need to know as we move into our senior years. Thank you, Tony, for everything.
I'm putting my cell phone number in the chat if you need to text me or call me with a question. Everyone, thank you for being with us. We hope this has been informative. You will get the email with the recording link in it by the beginning of next week. It will go to everyone who registered for the event. Thank you so much. If there are no other questions, have a great day.